Good evening, friend. Come in out of the cold and welcome back. Let your head settle back into the pillow. Let your shoulders come down from wherever the day has been holding them. Your eyes can close whenever they are ready. There is nothing left tonight that needs you, and nowhere at all you have to be. Tonight we're in New York, more than 100 years ago, inside the most famous restaurant in America, Delmonico's. The last carriages have rolled away from the door, and the bright rooms upstairs are going quiet and dark. But down below the kitchen is still awake, its fire kept low, and a few quiet people are only now beginning their night. So here is the gentle question to carry with you. When the last guest has gone home, who stays awake to keep a great house warm until morning? If this kind of slow history is a good place to rest, a subscribe and a like help these long quiet nights find the other people looking for them, and there is no need to do a thing now. Do it whenever it suits you, in the morning or not at all. I would love to know where you're listening from tonight, and what the hour is where you are. Someone in a cold room with one small lamp still burning. Someone on a long dark road with a heater running low. Wherever you are, there is a place for you here. So dim your screen and let the room go soft around you. Come with me all the way back to a warm kitchen underneath a sleeping restaurant on Fifth Avenue on an ordinary night after midnight. Let us begin. It is a little after midnight, and you're the last one here. Picture it slowly. A wide room on Fifth Avenue, more than 100 years ago. The tables around you are empty now, their white cloth still bright under the low lamps. The other diners have gone. You heard them go, one party and then another, the scrape of a chair, a soft laugh at the door, a good night called across the room, and then the sound of wheels on the street outside, carriage after carriage, carrying them home into the dark. Now the wheels have stopped, the street has gone quiet, and the room has settled around you like a held breath let go. This is Delmonico's. If you knew nothing else about the age we are visiting, you would know that name. For most of 100 years, it was simply where New York dined, the place people meant when they said they had dined well. Presidents came here. The old families came here, the ones whose names were on the streets and the banks and the railroads. Tonight, none of that matters. Tonight, the room is nearly dark and warm and yours. You do not have to do anything with this room. You only have to be in it. So let us sit here a moment, the two of us, and let the house go quiet around us before we go any further. The lamps are turned low, not out, only low, so the light is the colour of honey, and it pools on the white cloths and leaves the corners soft. There are mirrors on the walls, tall ones in gold frames, and they hold the low light and give it back, so the room seems to go on gently in every direction. There is gold in the mouldings overhead, and it catches the lamplight in a dull, warm gleam. The heavy curtains are drawn against the winter street. The carpet under your feet is deep and quiet. When you move, you make no sound at all. The smell of the evening is still here, fading kindly. Coffee, somewhere, the last pod of it. Candle wax, warm and sweet, from the tapers that burned on the finest tables and have only just been pinched out. A ghost of cigar smoke, high up near the ceiling. Wine. Hothouse flowers going gently over in their vases, roses and something green. And underneath all of it, so faint you might miss it, a warmth that seems to come up through the floor itself. That is the kitchen, far below. We will go down to it in time. It is worth the wait. A waiter moves at the far end of the room. He is in no hurry. His evening coat is a little rumpled now, at the end of a long service, and he carries a small tray of glasses the way a man carries something he has carried 10,000 times without looking at it. He gathers the last of the wine glasses from an empty table. He straightens a chair that no one will sit in until tomorrow. He does not mind that you're still here. In a house like this, the last guest is never hurried. The last guest is simply seen to, gently, until they are ready to be shown out or shown down. Outside, the city is going to bed. Madison Square lies just across the way, a dark green square of winter trees, and the gas lamps stand around it burning low and yellow, each one a small warm coin of light in the cold. A policeman walks the far side of the square, slow, his footsteps the only sound. A light snow may be starting, the first flakes drifting down through the lamplight and vanishing before they land. The great houses up the avenue have put out their windows one by one. The city that dined so brightly a few hours ago is nearly all asleep, but not this house, not yet. That is the thing to hold on to tonight, the small warm secret of it. The guests have gone, and the lamps are low, and to anyone passing on the street this building looks as though it has closed and gone dark with all the rest. It has not. Underneath you, right now, in a room you have not seen yet, a fire is being kept. It has burned since before the first lunch, hours and hours ago, and it will not be allowed to go out. And around that fire, a small company of quiet people are only now beginning the real work of their night. You will meet them, all of them, before morning. The cooks who are washing down their tables, the boy at the sink with his arms in the hot water, the old man who keeps the wine, the watchman who is about to begin his long slow walk through these very rooms with a lamp in his hand, and the baker who is not here yet, who will come in while the whole city sleeps and turn a bowl of soft dough into warm bread by first light. They are the reason the house keeps breathing after dark. They are the ones who keep the fire. Feel the warmth for a moment, the way it comes up so gently through the floor. It is easy to miss. You notice the low light first and the hush and the good smells fading. But under your feet, if you're still, there is a faint, steady warmth rising through the carpet and the boards, as though the building itself were a living thing with a slow, warm pulse. That is the fire below, and the ranges that have burned all day, and the heat they have poured into the whole tall house hour after hour. A great house holds its warmth, the way a stone by a hearth holds it, long after the flame is banked. This one will hold it most of the night. You are sitting inside that stored warmth now, high above the fire that made it, and it is keeping you the way it keeps the house. Listen, too, to how little there is to hear. A room this size, full a few hours ago, is almost silent now, and the silence has a texture to it. The tick of something cooling, the far small sounds of the waiter at his round, a glass set down, a chair moved, the muffled hush of the winter street through the heavy curtains, your own slow breathing, that is nearly all. A quiet like this is not empty. It is full of care. Every small sound in it is the sound of the house being seen to, gently, by hands that know exactly what they are doing, so that you do not have to think about any of it. You can simply sit and be warm and let the quiet hold you. For now, let us stay here in the warm room a little longer. Let the last waiter finish his round. Let the lamps burn low and honey-coloured on the empty cloths. There is no rush anywhere in this house tonight, and there is no rush for you either. You are the last guest, and you are welcome, and the house will keep you warm. And when you are ready, we will get up quietly and we will look at these rooms properly. There are more of them than you would think, floor above floor of them, and each one has its own kind of quiet at this hour. That is where we're going next, up through the gilded rooms of the most famous restaurant in America, with the fire kept low and alive beneath us the whole way. Let us stand up then and see the house. We will go slowly, and we will keep our voices low, because a building at this hour has a hush to it that you do not want to break. Delmonico stood on the corner of 5th Avenue and 26th Street, facing Madison Square, and it opened its doors in the autumn of 1876. For most of the years we are visiting, this was the very centre of fashionable New York, the address people meant when they simply said Delmonico's. It was not one grand room, it was many rooms, on floor above floor, and at this hour each one is empty and waiting, and each one has cooled a little from the warmth of the evening. Our guide, if we have one, is the head waiter. Let us say his name was Auguste, and let us be clear that we are inventing him, a stand-in for the real men who ran these floors, though everything he shows us is true to the house. Auguste has worked here for years. He knows every room the way you know the rooms of your own home in the dark, by the feel of the air and the number of steps. He's tired, in the good, clean way a man is tired at the end of honest work, and he does not mind walking us through. He lifts a small lamp and we follow. The ground floor holds the cafe. This was the less formal room, the one nearest the street, where a gentleman might come in for a late supper or an early coffee. At this hour the little marble-topped tables are wiped and bare. The chairs are turned up onto some of them so the floor can be swept. The big windows look out onto the avenue, and through them you can see the gas lamps of the square and the snow if it is snowing. A single low light burns near the door. The room smells of coffee and of the cold that comes in each time the street door opens. Up the stairs now, gently, one hand on the smooth rail. The stair is wide and carpeted, and it turns as it climbs. On the second floor is the ballroom, and even in the low light you can see why people spoke of it. It is done in red and gold. The walls are a deep, warm red, the mouldings and the frames are gilded, and great mirrors run along one side so that on a night of dancing the room doubled itself and filled with light. Tonight there is no dancing. The floor is bare and gleaming. The mirrors hold only shadow and the little moving flame of Auguste's lamp. But the warmth of the colour is still here, and standing in the middle of that dark red and gold room, you understand something about the age we are visiting, how much it loved to be dazzled. Off the ballroom are 4 private dining rooms. These were for the parties that did not wish to be seen, or that wished to be seen only by each other. Small rooms, richly done, each with its own table and its own door. In a house like this, a great deal of the city's business and the city's courtship happened behind those doors, over long dinners that ran late into the night. Now the doors stand open on darkness. The tables are cleared, the rooms are cooling. Higher still, on the 3rd floor, is the banquet hall, and this is the room that could hold a crowd. When Delmonico's put on one of its great dinners, this was often where it happened, a long room set for 100 guests, or 200, or more. Think of that for a moment gently, the way you would turn a coin over in your fingers. The book that came out of this kitchen, the one we will speak of later, gives full menus for private dinners of 8 to 20 people, and then, further on, for entertainments of 100 to 400 persons, 100 to 400. A single evening's dinner, cooked and carried and served to that many people, each course in its turn, each plate warm. It took an army below stairs to do it, and we will meet that army soon. But tonight the banquet hall is empty. The long tables are folded away or stripped bare. The chairs are stacked. The great room that could seat 400 holds only the 2 of us and the head waiter and his lamp, and the sound of our own quiet breathing. It is a strange and peaceful thing to stand in a room built for a crowd when the crowd has gone. The room does not feel sad. It feels like it is resting. It has done its work, and it will do it again, and for now it is allowed to be dark and still. Auguste leans against the doorframe for a moment and looks down the length of the empty hall, and you can see him remembering it full. He has served in this room 1,000 times. He has carried trays the length of it with his arm aching and his face calm. He could tell you which corner catches the draught and which chair always wobbles, and where the best light falls. All of that lives in him, quietly, the way a house lives in the people who keep it. He will not tell you tonight. Tonight he only looks and rests a moment, and then he straightens up and lifts the lamp again, because there is still the last of the service to see to below. For all its gold and all its mirrors, remember what this building truly is. It is a place where people are fed. Strip away the red and the gold and the tall, cool mirrors, and underneath it is a kitchen and a fire and a great deal of skilled and patient work. The rooms up here are the face the house shows the world. The real heart of it is somewhere else, somewhere warm, down at the bottom of the house where the fire is kept. Think of the evenings the name of this house has held. One famous dinner, given for a Russian Grand Duke, the Grand Duke Alexis, was said to have cost $5,000 for 50 guests. $5,000 in a year when a good year's wage for a working man was a small fraction of that. The cooks turned that money into course after course, and the men who carried it were men like Auguste, walking floors like these with the trays held level. That was the daylight house at its most dazzling. The walls up here have seen a great deal of it. The famous names and the famous knights, presidents and old families and singers, and the men who built the railroads, all of them fed and warmed and sent home into the dark. But a room does not keep the crowd. A room keeps only the quiet after. Stand in the dark banquet hall long enough, and you feel that the grand nights have not so much vanished as settled, the way dust settles, into the gold of the mouldings and the cool of the mirrors. The room is not haunted. It is only full of rest, the rest of a place that has done a great deal of work and is allowed now to be still. Augusta feels it too, you can tell, the way he stands easy in the doorway and lets the empty room be empty. He has given his whole working life to nights like these. He does not need the crowd to love the room. He loves it best, perhaps, exactly like this, dark and clean and quiet, with the fire kept warm somewhere beneath it. We are not going down there quite yet. First there are the very last guests to see out, the last few plates still going up from below. Follow Auguste back toward the stair. That is where we are going next, to the last covers of the night, the final warm plates carried up while the fire still burns high. Not everyone has gone yet. There are always a few who linger. Somewhere in the house tonight, in the cafe or behind one of the private doors, a last table is still sitting. Perhaps it is two old friends who have not seen each other in years and cannot bear to end the evening. Perhaps it is a party that dined late and slowly and is only now reaching the coffee. It does not matter who they are. What matters for us is that the kitchen far below is still sending food up to them, and so for a little while longer the great machine of the house is still turning at its lowest, gentlest speed. Let us follow a single plate on its journey up, because it will show us the whole house at work better than any map could. Down at the bottom of the building in the kitchen we have not properly seen yet, the last order of the night has come in. Not a great dinner now, only a small late thing, a little supper for the table that lingers. The sauce cook warms what is needed. The plate is finished, wiped clean at its rim, and set under a cover to keep the heat, and then it begins to climb. In some of Delmonico's houses the food travelled up from the kitchens to the dining rooms in a small lift, a dumbwaiter, a little cupboard on ropes that rose through the heart of the building carrying warm plates. In others a waiter carried it up the service stair himself, quickly and smoothly, so that it arrived still hot. Either way the plate leaves the warmth of the fire and travels up through the cooling house to the guest who ordered it. Auguste takes it at the top of the stair. This is the part of the work that no guest ever sees, the handover in the dim service passage, the quick glance to check the plate is right, the cloth folded over the forearm. Then he pushes through into the lit room and his whole manner changes. He is unhurried now, gracious, as though he has all the time in the world and this one plate is the only thing that has ever mattered. He sets it down without a sound. He steps back. He becomes, again, part of the wall, present only when he is wanted. That is the art of it, and it is a real art learned over years. The guest sees only ease. Behind the ease is a man who has been on his feet since the afternoon. Think about what this kitchen could do, in its full daylight strength, because the last small plate we are following is only the faint end of it. The chef who ran this kitchen for most of these years set down its whole repertoire in a book, and that book holds 3,719 recipes. 3,719. Soups and broths without number, sauces built on sauces, fish and shellfish, every kind of meat, birds and game, cold dishes and salads and vegetables, and then the whole warm country of the pastry and the ices and the sweets. All of it was here, in the hands of the cooks below, ready to be made. A guest could ask for almost anything a fine kitchen of that age knew how to make, and the answer, quietly, was yes. But that is the daylight house, the house of the great dinners and the long menus. What we are watching now is the very tale of the day, the last few plates, when the vast repertoire has narrowed down to one small warm supper and a pot of coffee. There is a particular sweetness to a great kitchen at this hour. All its power is still there, banked and ready, and yet the demand on it has almost stopped. It is like a strong animal lying down. You can feel how much it could do, and you can feel it choosing now to rest. The guests at the last table are winding down too. You can tell, even from across the room, the way a long good evening finally begins to end. The talk slows. There are longer pauses, comfortable ones. Someone leans back. Someone turns a spoon over in their fingers and does not use it. The coffee is nearly gone. Soon one of them will say the words that end it. Well, I suppose. Or shall we? And the whole thing will fold up gently and they will rise and reach for their coats. Auguste knows the signs. He is already, quietly, making sure their carriage will be ready. And down below, the kitchen knows too. The last plate has gone up. No more orders will come now. The cooks feel it, that loosening, the moment when the last ticket is done and the fire no longer has to answer to anyone upstairs. Their night, their own night, the real work of turning the whole house over toward morning is about to begin. But it cannot begin until the last guest has truly gone, and so the whole house waits, warm and patient, on a few friends finishing their coffee. There is a whole small world in that service passage at the top of the stair, and it is worth a moment of your drifting attention. It is the seam of the house, the place where the two halves meet, the gilded rooms on one side and the working world on the other. Step through one door and you're in red and gold, among mirrors, everything smooth and gracious. Step back through it, and you're in a bare passage of scrubbed boards and plain paint, lit by a single low light, where the plates come up warm from below and the tired men wait to carry them in. The guests never see this side. They are not meant to. The whole art of the house is that the seam never shows, that the food simply arrives, warm and perfect, as though the room had wished it into being. Follow the coffee if you like, since coffee is the last thing a long evening asks for. Somewhere below, a pot of it has been kept hot, and it comes up now in its silver, and the smell of it fills the little passage for a moment, dark and warm. There will be a last ice, perhaps, brought up cold from the ice rooms in the cellar, a small marvel of a house that could keep a thing frozen in the same building where a great fire burned. Cold and heat, under one roof, at midnight. Auguste takes the tray and steadies it and waits for the small sound of talk in the room to reach the right pause, and then he goes in. This is the last plate the kitchen will send up tonight. When Auguste comes back through that door with the empty tray, the kitchen's own night can finally begin. Let us leave the last table to its last quiet minutes. They have earned them, and let us go down toward the door, because in a moment they will rise, and the carriages will be called, and the great soft closing of the house will begin. That is where we're going next, out to the door and the cold and the last wheels on the avenue, with the fire still kept low and alive beneath it all. And now they rise. At the last table someone finally says it, the small word that ends the evening, and the others smile and push back their chairs. Coats are brought. There is the small warm bustle of people getting ready to go out into the cold, the settling of a shawl, a hat taken up, a last word or two that has nothing to do with anything. Auguste is there with the coats, holding each one open in turn, and he has done this so many thousand times that it looks like nothing at all, like the coat simply arriving on the shoulder of its own accord. Down at the street door stands the doorman. Let us give him to you plainly as another of the house's quiet keepers, a man in a heavy coat who has stood at this door through the whole long evening, opening it for every arrival and every departure, letting in the cold each time and closing it out again. His face is red with the night air. He has called more carriages than he could count. And now he calls the last of them. Out on the avenue the carriages have been waiting. All evening they stood along the curb and around the square, the horses in their blankets, the drivers up on their high seats wrapped against the cold, dozing, waiting, stamping their feet. These men had a long night too, longer in some ways than the diners they carried, out in the weather the whole time while the warmth and the light were all indoors. When the doorman calls, a driver stirs, gathers his reins, and brings his carriage up to the door. The horse's breath smokes in the lamplight. The wheels turn on the cold stone with that particular sound, iron on stone, that says a city is going home. The guests come out into the cold. There is the shock of the winter air after the warm room, and you can see them feel it. The pull of the coat collar up, the quick breath. Then the step up into the carriage, the door, the soft word to the driver, and they are away. The wheels rolling off down the avenue and the sound of them fading until the street is quiet again. The doorman touches his hat. He watches the carriage to the corner, the way a good doorman always does, and then he steps back inside and closes the great door against the night. And that, quietly, is the end of the day at Delmonico's. The last guest has gone. Now something lovely begins to happen through the whole house, floor by floor. The lights begin to go down. It was done by hand in those years, room by room. A house like this was lit partly by gas, and by the later years we are visiting, more and more by the new electric light, with real candles kept only for the finest tables. Whatever the flame, someone had to go to it and lower it or put it out. So through the building now a few quiet figures move, turning the gas down at its little tap until the mantle dims to a low blue and then to nothing, or turning the new electric switches, or lifting a long snuffer to the last candles. The bright rooms go soft, then softer, then dark, all but for a single low light, left burning here and there so that no one walks into a chair. Follow it in your mind, that slow going down of the lights, because it is one of the gentlest things a great house does. The ballroom, red and gold, goes dark. The private rooms go dark. The banquet hall that could hold 400 goes dark. The cafe by the street keeps one lamp by the door and lets the rest go out. Room by room, floor by floor, the light that filled this place all evening is folded away and put to bed, until the whole tall building stands quiet and dim above the avenue, looking for all the world like it has closed. This is the first great softening of the night, and you're allowed to feel it in your own body. The lights going down in a warm house is a signal older than any of us, older than gas or electricity or candles, a signal that the day is truly over and rest is allowed now. Somewhere in you something lets go a little when the lights go down. Let it. There is nothing left tonight that needs you. The lights are going out all through the house, and you may let your own go out too. But here is the small warm secret again, the one to hold on to. The house is not going cold. It is not being shut up and left. As the lights go down upstairs, the real life of the night is only just waking below. The cooks are pushing back from the last of the service. The boy is filling the great sink. The watchman is lighting his lamp. And under all of it, in the deepest, warmest room of the house, the fire is still kept, low and alive, the one thing in all these rooms that will not be allowed to go out before morning. Spare a thought, before we go in, for the men who are only now driving away from the door into the cold, not the guests, the drivers. All evening they sat up on their high seats along the curb and around the square, wrapped in whatever they had against the weather, while the warmth and the light were all indoors. They walked the horses to keep them from stiffening. They dozed and woke and dozed again. And now, at last, they carry the last of the diners home, and only then can they turn for their own stables and rub the horses down and find their own late warmth and their own bed. Their night ends where ours is only beginning. It is worth remembering on a cold night how many people it takes, out in the dark, to carry a few warm people home, and watch the lights a moment longer as they go down, because it is such a gentle thing, and it is happening all through the house at once. In one room a hand lowers the gas until the little flame shrinks to a bead, and then to nothing. In another a switch is turned and the new electric bulbs fade. On a sideboard somewhere a long brass snuffer comes down over the last two candles, and there is the small breath of smoke and the smell of it, sweet and waxen, drifting in the dark. Room by room the house is being put to bed by hand, the way a mother goes from room to room turning off the lights when the children are finally down. There is love in it, though no one would call it that. There is only care and habit and the deep old knowledge that when the lights go down, rest is allowed. The waiters and the cleaners are moving into the darkened dining rooms now to take them back and set them right for a day that has not come yet. Let us go with them for a while. That is where we are going next, into the dim rooms where the last hands smooth the cloths and square the chairs, with the fire kept low and alive beneath us. When the guests are gone and the lights are low, the rooms belong to a different set of hands. All evening these rooms belong to the diners and the waiters who served them. Now, in the dimness, they pass quietly to the cleaners, the scrubbers, the ones whose whole work happens after dark and is finished before the world wakes to see it. Much of the keeping of a great house is like this. It happens at the edges of the day, in the early dark and the late dark, done by people the guests never meet, so that when the guests arrive the rooms are simply perfect, as though they had made themselves. Let us watch one young cleaner at her work, and let us call her nobody in particular, one of the many who did this, a girl of the kind who kept the great rooms of the city bright. She has come up from below with a basket of cloths and a soft brush, and she moves into the dim ballroom without a sound. She's not afraid of the dark room. She has done this 100 nights. The low light is enough for her hands, which know the work without being watched. First the tables. The heavy damask cloths come off, one by one, gathered up with the crumbs still in them, and folded into a great soft bundle for the laundry. Underneath, the tables are wiped down and left bare and clean. Then the chairs, each one lifted and set square to the table, or turned up so the floor beneath can be swept. She works around the room in a slow circle, and behind her the room grows tidy and calm, ready to be dressed again in the morning with fresh cloths and clean glass. The silver goes into a basket to be counted and washed and put away. The glassware, so much of it, goes down carefully to be washed below. The flowers, the great arrangements that stood on the sideboards all evening, are lifted out, and any that will last another day are kept, and the rest are set aside. The little things 100 guests leave behind are gathered up. A dropped glove, a forgotten fan, a programme, and set in a small drawer by the door, where the house keeps such things until they are asked for, if they ever are. There is a particular quiet to a great room being put right in the dark. The sounds are all small and soft, the chime of silver settling into a basket, the whisper of a cloth being folded, the light drag of a chair set square, a broom somewhere with its patient back and forth. Now and then a low word between two cleaners across the room, nothing that needs an answer, and under it all the deep hush of a building at night, the settling of old floors, the tick of a cooling radiator, the wind at the tall windows. It is the sound of a place being cared for while it sleeps, and it is one of the most peaceful sounds there is. Look at the mirrors as she works. All evening they were full of light and movement, full of gowns and jewels and the shine of the chandeliers. Now they hold only the dim room and the small moving shape of the girl and her lamp. A great mirror in an empty room at night is a gentle thing. It does not show you a crowd. It shows you the quiet, doubled, going softly off into the dark. She passes a cloth over one of them, out of habit as much as need, and her own reflection wipes clear for a moment, and then she moves on. This is the true shape of a great house, if you look for it. Above, the gold and the mirrors and the crowd. Below and behind and after, the plain hands that make it all possible, the girl with the cloth, the boy with the broom, the aching feet, the early rising and the late finishing. Both are true at once, the splendour and the scrubbing, and neither cancels the other. There is no need tonight to be troubled by it. It is simply how a great house was kept, and there was real dignity in the keeping, real skill in it, real pride. The girl who leaves this room perfect at 1 a.m. knows exactly how good her work is, even if no one will ever thank her for it. We can thank her, quietly, by seeing her at all. When she's finished the ballroom, she stands a moment in the doorway and looks back at it, the way careful people always look back at a room they have set right. The cloths gone, the chairs squared, the mirrors clear, the floor swept, everything ready. It is a good feeling that the room made perfect and handed on. Then she takes up her basket and her lamp and moves on to the next room, and the ballroom is left behind her, dark and clean and resting, waiting for a morning it cannot see. Follow the cloths on their way down for a moment, because even they have somewhere to go tonight. The great bundles of used linen, the damask off the tables and the napkins from 100 laps go down to the lower part of the house to wait for the laundry. A house that dressed so many tables in such white cloth went through linen by the cartload, and keeping it clean and pressed and folded was a whole quiet trade of its own, done by hands we will barely glimpse. Think of the sheer whiteness this house required, night after night, every table crisp and fresh as though linen grew on trees, and behind that whiteness the steam, and the irons and the folding, the patient invisible work that made a clean cloth seem like the most natural thing in the world. That is the truth of the whole building, really, and it is a truth you can rest in rather than worry over. Everything that looked effortless upstairs was made by effort somewhere you could not see. The warm plate, the clean cloth, the bright mirror, the fresh flower, the low kind light, all of it was hands, patient hands, working early and late and out of sight. There is nothing sad in that tonight. It is simply how warmth was made and passed along, from the hands that never rested to the guests who never thought about it. Tonight, unlike those guests, you get to think about it gently, and to be grateful, and to let the same kind of unseen care hold you now, because that is exactly what is happening. Somewhere below, hands are keeping the house warm for the morning, and you may rest inside their keeping. We have seen the house from the top down now, the warm last room, the gilded floors, the last plates going up, the lights going down, the rooms handed over to the night hands. It is time to go where the warmth has been coming from all along. It is time to go down, past the dining rooms, past the service stair, all the way to the bottom of the house, to the one room that has never been dark tonight and never will be. That is where we are going next. Down to the great kitchen and its kept fire, the warm heart of the whole sleeping house. Now we go down. There is a plain door at the back of the house, the kind of door a guest would never open, and behind it a stair that leads down into the working heart of the building. Let us take it slowly. The carpet ends. The smooth painted walls give way to bare ones. The stair itself is plain wood or plain stone, worn in the middle of each step by years of feet, going up with full trays and down with empty ones. The gilding is behind us now. Ahead of us is iron and stone and heat. You feel the heat before you see anything. It comes up the stair to meet you, and it is a different warmth from the stored warmth of the rooms above. That was gentle, held in carpet and curtain. This is the real thing, the source, a living heat with a smell to it, coal and iron and the deep memory of everything that has been cooked today. It rises up the stairwell like the breath of the building. A few steps down and you have loosened whatever you were wearing against the cold. A few more and you understand that you are walking down into the one place in this whole tall house that has been warm, truly warm, all day and all evening and will be all night. And then the stair turns and you are in the kitchen. Let it be big in your mind, because it was. This was one of the largest and most disciplined kitchens in America, the kitchen of the most famous restaurant in the country. It is a long room, or a set of rooms opening into one another, low and warm, with a stone or tiled floor that is wet in places from the last scrubbing, and gleams where the light catches it. The ceiling is not high, great hooks and rails run along it, and from them hangs the battery, the ranks of copper pots and pans and moulds, dozens upon dozens of them, scoured to a soft red gold shine, catching the light and giving it back. There are long tables of scrubbed deal, pale and soft with age and use. There are the great stock pots. There are knives on their racks and cloths on their rails and the 10,000 small tools of a serious kitchen, each in its place. And there, along one whole side, is the range. This is the thing to fix in your mind tonight, because it is the heart of everything, and we will come back to it again and again. The range is a great long structure of black cast iron, a wall of fire and iron ovens, and it has been burning since before the first lunch was cooked, hours and hours ago, fed with coal all day by hand. It throws out a steady, enormous heat. Its top is a field of iron plates, some fiercely hot, some cooler, so that a cook could move a pan from a hard boil to a slow simmer just by sliding it along. Its ovens hold their heat like stone, and its fire, its deep red coal fire, is never, ever allowed to go all the way out. Not tonight. Not any night. To let the range die would be to lose hours in the morning bringing it back. So it is fed and banked and kept from one day into the next, a fire that in a sense never stops, passed along like a lamp from hand to hand. Stand in front of it a moment and feel it on your face. This is the warm heart of the house. Everything we saw upstairs, the gilded rooms, the red and gold ballroom, the warm plates, the stored heat in the carpets, all of it began here, at this fire. The whole building is really just a great deal of stone and gold and mirror built up around this one kept flame, the way a body is built around a beating heart. And at this hour, with the guests gone and the last plate sent up, the fire is beginning to be let down gently from the roar of service to the low, steady glow it will hold through the night. But it is still bright now. It still lights the faces of the cooks who are moving in front of it, winding down their long day. There are people here, of course, and we will meet each of them in turn because they are the true reason we came down. The cooks at their stations finishing the last of the work. A boy somewhere behind, already at a great sink. The smell of them, all mixed with the smell of the fire, honest and human and warm. Voices low, the clatter of the day softening into the quieter sounds of a kitchen closing down. This room, more than any room upstairs, is where the real life of the house lives, and it is where we will spend most of the night. Let your eyes travel the room while it is still lit, and let it be plain and honest to you, because the plainness is part of the comfort. There is no gold down here. There are no mirrors. The walls are whitewashed or bare, marked by years of heat and steam. The tables are scrubbed wood, not polished. The floor is stone, and it is wet, and it is meant to be. This is a working room, and everything in it is for use, and yet it is, I think, the most beautiful room in the whole building. More beautiful than the red and gold ballroom far above us, because everything in it is true. The copper shines, because it is scoured every night by hand. The tables are pale because they are scrubbed. The warmth is real warmth from a real fire. Nothing here is for show. Everything here is for feeding people, and there is a deep, quiet beauty in a room that has only one honest purpose. The sounds are changing as we stand here. During the service, this room roared. The clang of iron, the calling of orders, the rush of many hands. Now it is settling into its night music, which is softer and slower and much kinder to a tired ear. The hiss of a pan being wiped down, the deep knock of a great pot set on a table, water running somewhere, and the clatter of the first dishes going into it. A low word between two cooks who have worked side by side all day and hardly need words anymore. And under all of it, always, the faint, steady breath of the fire, the settling of the coals, the tiny sounds a great range makes as it is let down from its full heat toward the low glow of the night. It is a good room to be tired in. It is a good room to be still in. It is, more than anywhere upstairs, a room that knows how to keep you warm. But first, before we meet the cooks, we should meet the man whose kitchen this is, the presence behind every pot and every plate, the one whose taste and will shaped everything that ever came out of this fire. He is not a figure I have invented. He was entirely real, and in his day he was as famous, in his own world, as any of the millionaires he fed. That is where we're going next, to the chef of Delmonico's, with the great range burning warm and steady beside us the whole time. His name was Charles Ranhofer, and for most of the years we are visiting, this kitchen was his. Let me tell you about him gently, the way you would tell a friend about someone you admired, because he is worth knowing, and because his presence is in every corner of this warm room. He was born in France, near Paris, in a town called Saint-Denis, in the autumn of 1836, and he was sent off into the trade almost unbelievably young. At 12 years old, he was already in Paris, learning to be a pastry cook, his small hands learning sugar and flour and the patience that pastry demands above all things. At 16, still barely more than a boy, he was the private chef of a prince. Think of that a moment, and let it be gentle rather than startling. A boy of 16 running the kitchen of a great household, trusted with every dinner. He had found the thing he was made for very early, and he never really did anything else. He crossed the ocean to America as a young man in the 1850s, and cooked here and there in private houses and at grand occasions, learning the new country and its tastes. And then, in the spring of 1862, at the age of 26, he became the chef de cuisine at Delmonico's. That is the head of the kitchen, the one who commands it all. Apart from a few years away in the middle, he held that place until 1896, which is more than 30 years. 30 years at the head of this fire, 30 years of dinners, a whole working life given to one great kitchen and to the simple, endless, impossible task of feeding people beautifully, night after night after night. We know a great deal about what he could do, and here is the loveliest part because he wrote it all down. Near the end of his life, in 1894, Charles Ranhofer published an enormous book. He called it The Epicurean. It runs to more than 1,000 pages, and in it he set down the whole art of this kitchen, everything it knew how to make, in 3,719 recipes. Let that number rest in your mind the way a number should on a night like this, gently, with wonder, turned over slowly. 3,719. Soups without end, and the broths beneath them. Sauces built patiently upon other sauces, every fish the markets could bring, and every shellfish, beef and veal and lamb and pork and every bird and all the game, cold dishes for a summer table, salads, vegetables done 100 ways, and then the whole warm sweet country at the end of the book, the pastries and the ices and the confections, the part he had loved first, as a boy in Paris. It is all in there. A guest at one of these tables could ask for almost anything a great kitchen of the age knew how to make, and somewhere in Ranhofer's 3,719 recipes was the answer, and the cooks below had the hands to make it real. The book also holds the menus of this house across more than 30 years, and dinners planned for every size of gathering, from a quiet private supper for 8, up through parties of 20, and on to the great entertainments for 100, 200, 300, 400 people. To read it now is to walk back into this kitchen and see exactly what it did. It is the written memory of the warm room we are standing in, and the fact that it survives, that you can still hold it and read it today, is one of the small quiet miracles of this whole story. The fire is long banked. The book remains. Ranhofer himself was, by the accounts we have, a man of great authority and great certainty, as a man who runs a kitchen like this must be. There is a line remembered of him, plain and firm about how his kitchen was run. "I am responsible," he said, "and things must be done as I direct." You can hear the whole man in that. Not unkind, simply sure. In a kitchen sending hundreds of perfect plates up into the gilded rooms, someone has to hold the whole thing in his head and his will, and that someone was him, standing where we are standing now in front of this fire for 30 years. In his own day, in his own world, Charles Ranhofer was as famous as any of the great names he cooked for. The people who dined upstairs might have their fortunes and their mansions on the avenue, but the food that made their evenings, the food they remembered and spoke of and came back for, was his. A man could build a railroad and still not command a dinner the way this one Frenchman could, and he knew it. That is the confidence you hear in his remembered words. It was not vanity exactly. It was the plain knowledge of a person who is the best in the world at a very hard thing, and who has proven it night after night for decades in the most watched kitchen in the country. And yet think of the life inside those 30 years, and let it be gentle rather than grand. 30 years of standing at this fire, 30 years of afternoons that became evenings, that became long nights, 30 years of the same heat, the same weight of responsibility, the same hundreds of plates going up and having to be right. Everyone. He gave his whole life to it. He grew from a young man of 26 into the old master of the most famous kitchen in the country, all of it here in the warmth and the pressure of this one great kitchen. When he wrote his book at the end, with its 3,719 recipes, he was not really writing a book at all. He was writing down his life so that it would not be lost, so that the warm room and everything it knew would go on existing somewhere even after the fire was cold. That is a very human wish, and a very touching one, and it worked. The room is gone. The book remains. We are, in a sense, inside his book right now. He's here tonight, in these last hours of the service, doing what a chef does at the end of a long day, moving among his cooks, watching, saying little, missing nothing. We will follow him in a little while as he makes his last walk of the kitchen before he goes up to his own rest. But first, so that his last walk means something, we should understand what he is walking through. A kitchen this large was not one crowd of cooks all doing the same thing. It was divided carefully into stations, each with its own master and its own craft, like a small country of neighbouring trades. Let us go and see them, one by one, while their fires are still warm. That is where we're going next, along the stations of the great kitchen, with Ranhofer somewhere behind us and the range burning low and steady at our side. A great kitchen is not a single thing. It is many small kitchens, side by side, each one a whole craft of its own. This is one of the quiet beauties of a place like Delmonico's, and it is worth walking slowly through, because understanding it will make the whole rest of the night warmer and clearer. To send hundreds of different dishes up to hundreds of guests, all at the right moment, all hot, all perfect, you cannot have every cook trying to do everything. So the work is divided. The kitchen is broken into stations, and each station has its master and his helpers, and each master spends his whole life becoming very great at one part of the whole. Then, at service, the stations work together like the sections of an orchestra, each playing its own part, all of it arriving as one. Let us walk along them now while the last of the day's work is being finished and put away. Here is the sauce cook. In the old French kitchens, his was the most honoured station of all, and you can see why. The sauces are the soul of this kind of cooking. The deep, rich foundations that everything else is built upon, made from stocks that have simmered for hours, reduced and skimmed and tasted and coaxed into being. His corner smells of that long, patient richness. Tonight he is straining the last of his great pots through cloth, saving what will keep, cleaning down his surface. Let us call him Emile, and let us be honest that he is a stand-in, a made-up name for the real and skilled men who held this post. His hands are stained and sure. He has stood at this station so long that he tastes with his nose as much as his tongue, and he knows the moment a sauce is right the way you know a familiar voice. Beyond him is the roast cook, the master of the great fires and the turning meats, the one who understands heat in his bones, and the fish cook, whose station smells of the sea, of oysters and the cold clean flesh of fish brought up from the markets that very day, and the cold larder, a cooler corner set a little apart, where the cold dishes are built and the meats are kept and the whole kitchen stores are watched over, and the vegetable cook with his mountains of green things and his soups, and off in his own warm province the pastry cook working in flour and sugar and butter, the maker of the sweets and the ices and the fine small things that end a dinner and that people remember longest. Each of these men was a craftsman of years. You did not simply walk into this kitchen and cook. You came in young, as a boy, at the bottom, and you learned one station under a hard and patient master for years, until your hands knew it without your mind, and then perhaps you rose. A place in this kitchen, even a low place, was a real thing to have, a training and a standing in the trade that a cook could carry anywhere in the world. The men at these stations knew that. Under the long hours and the heat and the shouting of a hard service, there was a deep pride here, the pride of people who are genuinely, provably good at a difficult thing. And now, at the end of the night, watch how the stations wind down. They do not all stop at once. Each one finishes its own last task in its own time, cleans its own ground, banks or lets down its own share of the fire, and falls quiet, The sauce cook strains his pots. The fish cook packs the last of the fish back into the ice. The vegetable cook scrubs his boards. One by one, the little kitchens within the kitchen go still, their masters wiping their hands, standing up straight for the first time in hours, feeling the long day in their backs and their feet. The great shared fire of the range is still there, holding them all together, warm at the centre of the room, but the frantic music of the service has ended, and what is left is the slower, kinder work of putting a kitchen to bed. There is a wholeness to it that is very restful to watch. A great complicated thing, made of many separate skilled parts, all slowly coming to rest in order, each part trusting the others to do their share. No one has to hold the whole thing alone. The sauce cook trusts the fish cook trusts the boy at the sink, and all of them in the end trust the fire, which will be kept whether they wake or sleep. That trust is the real warmth of a kitchen, deeper even than the heat of the coals. Let us stand a moment at the sauce cook's corner at a meal station, because it will show you the whole spirit of the place in one small space. His is the richest smelling corner of the kitchen, deep and brown and savoury. The smell of stock cooked down for hours until it is almost more than a smell, until it is a kind of warmth you can taste on the air. Along his station stand the pots, the great and the small, and the whisks, and the cloths for straining, and the little spoons he tastes with all day long. He has made these same sauces so many thousand times that his hands no longer need his eyes. He can build a foundation that took the old French cooks a lifetime to perfect, and he can do it while talking of something else entirely, the way you might tie your shoe without a thought. That is what mastery looks like when it is finished. It looks like ease. It looks like nothing at all. And remember that every man at every station came up the same long road to get there. No one was born knowing the sauces. Emile came into a kitchen like this as a boy, at the very bottom, and was given the smallest and hardest and least loved jobs, and did them for years, watching, learning, his hands slowly filling with knowledge. Only then did he rise to a station of his own. It was a hard road, and a long one, and the hours at the end of it were still long. But at the end of it a man could stand where Emile stands, sure and skilled and needed, one of the small company who could feed the greatest house in America. There was pride in that, real and earned. The kind of pride that does not need to be spoken because it is simply true. You can see it in how these men clean their stations at the end of the night. They leave them perfect. No one is watching. They do it anyway because the work is theirs and it is good. We have walked the stations and seen the shape of the work. Now let us look gently at what all this skill and all these stations actually made, the famous dishes that went up from this fire and out into the world and are still, some of them, on tables tonight. That is where we're going next, to what these hands could make, with the range kept low and warm beside us. Out of this one warm room came dishes the whole country learned to love, and a few of them are still with us tonight. There is something lovely in that, and it is worth dwelling on softly as the kitchen quiets around us. The men at these stations were not only feeding the diners upstairs on any given night, they were, without quite knowing it, teaching America how to eat. Dish after dish was born or made famous in this kitchen, and then travelled out from here, onto other menus, into other kitchens, into cookbooks and homes, until it belonged to everyone. You have very likely eaten the children of this fire without ever knowing where they came from. Take the simplest and most famous of them, the one that still carries the house's own name, the Delmonico steak. A good cut of beef cooked with care, plain and perfect. Nothing could be less complicated, and that is rather the point. This was a kitchen that could build a sauce for 2 days and fill a dessert with fire and ice. And it also understood that sometimes the greatest luxury is a fine piece of meat cooked exactly right. There is a small human detail here that I love. We know that the price of that steak was raised in 1882 from 75 cents to $1. 75 cents to $1. You can feel the whole age in that little change, the careful sum of it, a restaurant deciding what its most famous plate was worth. Turn that number over gently. 75 cents, $1, the price of the most famous steak in America on a menu more than 100 years ago. Then there is the lobster. It was first called Lobster Wenberg, named for a sea captain, a man named Ben Wenberg, who is said to have brought the idea into the kitchen and shown the cooks the trick of it, rich and warm and bound with cream and a little wine. The house made it famous, and then, the story goes, there was a falling out between the captain and the house, and the dish could no longer carry his name, and so the letters were gently rearranged and it became Lobster Newburg instead. It is a small and slightly comic story, and no one needs to worry over whether every detail is exactly right, because the dish outlived the quarrel entirely. Lobster Newburg. It is still made today, still warm, still bound with cream, its old quarrel long forgotten, its warmth remembered. And then, best of all for a story told beside a great fire, there is the one that holds fire and ice in the same dish, baked Alaska. The pastry cook made it, and Ranhofer set it down in his book under a different name, Alaska, Florida, for the two ends of the country, the cold and the warm, held together on one plate. It is ice cream, frozen hard, wrapped in a cloud of sweet meringue, and then, astonishingly, put to the heat, so that the meringue browns and the ice within stays cold. Think of what that dish is really in a kitchen like this one. It is the whole building on a single plate. The great fire on one side of the room and the ice rooms deep in the cellar on the other, brought together by skill into one warm and cold and impossible sweet. Only a house that could command both extremes under one roof could have made it, and this house could. There were countless others, of course, 3,719 in the book alone, dishes named for Grand Dukes and famous singers and writers, each one a small performance of flattery and craft. But you do not need the whole list to feel the thing. You only need to stand here, in the warm quiet of the closing kitchen, and understand that this fire in front of us fed not just the diners of one night, but, in a sense, a whole country's idea of a fine table. The steak, the lobster, the baked sweet with its heart of ice. They began here. They outlived the men who made them. They are some of them being made somewhere right now, tonight, while you drift. That is the quiet permanence of good work, and it is one of the warmest thoughts this whole house offers. The cooks are gone. The fire will one day be banked for the last time, but the things their hands made are still here, passed along the way the fire itself is passed along, from hand to hand, from year to year, kept alive. Ranhofer would have liked that, I think. It is a kind of immortality a modest man could accept, to be forgotten yourself while the good thing you made goes on warming strangers. There is one more gift from this kitchen that is easy to overlook, because it is not a dish at all. It is the very idea of the restaurant as we know it. When Delmonico's first opened, long before the house we are standing in, the notion was still new and a little strange, the notion that you could walk into a room, sit at your own cloth-covered table, be handed a printed card of many dishes at many prices and choose. Order the thing you wanted, made for you, when you wanted it. Before that, you largely ate what a place happened to be serving. Delmonico's did as much as anyone in America to make the other way ordinary, the way we all take for granted now. Every time you have ever sat down and been handed a menu, you have been, in a small way, inside the world this house helped to make. So when we speak of what these hands made, we are speaking of more than the steak and the lobster and the sweet with its heart of ice, wonderful as those are. We are speaking of a whole way of being fed gently and well in a warm room, with your own choices honoured. That is a large thing to have given a country, and it was given quietly over years by cooks like the ones putting away their stations around us now. They did not think of themselves as changing anything. They thought of themselves as getting the dinner up correct and hot, one more night. But the small correct things that good people do, night after night, have a way of adding up into something that outlasts them all. The menu in your hand at any restaurant ever is a little piece of this warm room carried forward into your own life. The man himself is still here in the room with us, quietly, at the end of his long day. It is nearly time for him to go up. But a chef does not simply put down his cloth and leave. There is a last walk to make first, a last slow round of the whole kitchen, to see that all is well before he hands it to the knight. Let us follow him on it. That is where we are going next, the chef's last walk, with the great range settling toward its low warm glow beside us. Before he goes up to his rest, Charles Ranhofer walks his kitchen one last time. Every good keeper of a place does this in one form or another. The captain walks the deck at night. The farmer looks in on the animals before bed. The parent stands a moment in the doorway of the sleeping child's room. It is not that anything is wrong. It is that a person who is responsible for something cannot quite lie down until they have seen, with their own eyes, that it is safe and well. So the chef makes his round, and because he has done it 10,000 times, it looks like almost nothing. A slow walk through a warm room, a glance here, a word there. But everything he loves is in that walk. He moves without hurry along the line of stations we walked earlier, and at each one he sees, in a single glance, the whole day and the state of the night. The sauce cook's corner, cleaned and put right, the great pot strained and covered. He sees it and says nothing, which is its own kind of praise. The fish station packed back into ice, the boards scrubbed pale, the pastry province floured and quiet, the ovens holding their warmth. He touches nothing. He does not need to. 30 years have made his eye so quick that he reads a station the way you read a familiar face, and knows at once whether it is well. Now and then he says a low word to a cook still finishing up. Not much. A great chef of this age was not, by our lights, a soft man, and Ranhofer held his kitchen with a firm hand and a certain will. We heard his own words on that earlier, plain and unashamed, that he was responsible, and things must be done as he directed. But there is another line remembered of him, and it shows you the other side of the same certainty, the pride beneath the sternness. He is said to have described his whole art like this, speaking to the owner of the house. "You are the proprietor," he said. "Furnish the room and the provision. Tell me the number of guests and what they want, and I will do the rest. And I will do the rest." There is a lifetime of hard-earned confidence in those 5 small words, the confidence of a man who has never once failed to send the dinner up, whatever was asked, however many came. He comes at last to the range, and here, if he pauses anywhere, he pauses. This is the heart of it, the fire he's commanded for 30 years, and it is being let down now from the heat of service to the low-banked glow it will hold till dawn. He sees that it is right. He sees that the night cook knows his business, that the coal is where it should be, that the great fire is being kept and not spent. To a man like Ranhofer, the kept fire is the kitchen's very life, the thing that must survive the night so that the whole enormous machine can wake tomorrow. He has never let it die. He's not about to start tonight. And then, his round finished, he does the simplest and most human thing. He takes off the marks of his command. He hands the kitchen over, with a word to the men who will hold it through the dark. The night cook and the ones who close down and the baker who is not yet here. And he climbs the stair to his own rest, an old craftsman at the end of another day, leaving his great fire in trusted hands. He will not publish his book for some years yet, and he does not know, walking up that stair tonight, that his 3,719 recipes will outlast the house itself and carry his kitchen forward past his own death, and into a time he cannot imagine, our time, tonight. He only knows that the fire is kept, the stations are clean, and the night is in good hands. That is enough to sleep on. It is enough for any of us. There is a lesson in that handing over if we want one, though the channel is not in the business of lessons, and I will keep it soft. A great keeper of anything in the end must trust others and go to bed. He cannot hold the fire every hour himself. He builds the thing and trains the hands and sets the standard, and then he lets go into sleep and trusts the night to keep what he has made. Ranhofer did it every night for 30 years. There is a deep rest available in that trust, the rest of a person who has done their work well and can now, in good conscience, let it be carried by someone else. You are allowed a share of that rest tonight. The fire is kept. It is not yours to tend. You may let go. Watch him go and let it settle you, because his going is a small model of the rest you are looking for tonight. All day he carried the whole kitchen in his mind. Every plate, every station, every guest, the weight of the most famous table in America resting on his shoulders. That is a great deal to carry. And now, at the end of it, he simply sets it down. He does not carry it up the stair with him. He leaves it here, in the warm room, with the hands he has trained, and he goes to his bed empty and unburdened, the way you can only go when you truly trust that the thing you love will be kept without you. The fire will be tended. The night cook knows his work. The morning will come, and the kitchen will be ready, and none of it now depends on him being awake. We are not always good at that, most of us, the setting down. We carry our days up the stairs with us and lie in the dark still holding them. But here is a whole house showing you another way. Here is a great and responsible man laying his burden down at the foot of the stair and climbing up into sleep with nothing in his hands. The work is not finished. It is simply passed along to hands he trusts so that he can rest. There is no failure in that and no loss. There is only the deep old wisdom that a person cannot hold the fire every hour and does not have to and may sleep. Whatever you carried up the stairs tonight, you are allowed to set it down here too. The fire will be kept. It is not yours to tend. The chef is gone up now, and the kitchen belongs wholly to the night. The stations are closing their last. The great room is quieter than we have yet heard it, and the real work of the night, the slow patient turning over of the whole house toward morning, is about to begin in earnest, with the youngest and the humblest hands leading the way. That is where we're going next, to the stations closing one by one, and the boy at the sink, with the range banked to a low red glow at the heart of it all. With the chef gone up, the kitchen begins the long gentle work of putting itself away. This is the turning over of the night, and it is one of the most restful things there is to watch, because it is order returning after a storm. All evening this room was a controlled kind of chaos. Hundreds of plates, a dozen hands, the fire roaring, the orders calling. Now, station by station, that storm is being folded up and set right, and in its place comes a deep and satisfied quiet. There is nothing frantic left. There is only the slow, sure, unhurried work of good people finishing their day properly, and the fire kept low and warm watching over all of it. Go back to the sauce cook, to Emile, because his station is the heart of the cleaning down just as it was the heart of the cooking. His great pots still hold the day's stocks, and those stocks are treasure, hours and hours of slow patient work, and they must not be wasted. So he strains them carefully through cloth into clean containers to be carried to the cold larder and kept for tomorrow. Nothing good is thrown away in a kitchen like this. What can be saved is saved. The bones and the trimmings that gave their goodness to the pot are lifted out. The pot itself, emptied, goes toward the great sink. And Emile wipes down his surface, the wood he has worked at all day, until it is clean and bare and ready. All around the room the same thing is happening at every station, each in its own way. The roast cook damps down his part of the great fire and scours the iron where the meats have been. The vegetable cook empties his water and scrubs his boards and stacks them to dry. The fish cook takes the last of the day's fish, still good, and packs it back into ice to keep and washes down the marble where he has worked, so that not a trace of the sea is left by morning. Each man knows exactly what his station needs. No one tells him. He has done it 10,000 times. He simply moves through the closing of his own small kingdom and leaves it clean and steps back. Watch how the great pots are handled, because there is something in it. A pot in a kitchen like this is not a small thing. Some of them are enormous, big enough to bathe a child in, blackened outside from the fire and bright within. When one is carried to the sink, it takes real strength, and often two men, and there is a particular grunt and shuffle to it, the honest labour of heavy things being moved by tired arms. These were long days of real physical work. We should not pretend otherwise, and the Channel never does. The hours were long and the pots were heavy and the feet ached on the stone floor. And in the very same breath it is true that there was pride in it, and skill, and the deep, quiet company of people working hard together toward a shared and finished thing. Both of those are true at once, the aching and the pride, and neither one cancels the other. There is a rhythm to a kitchen closing that a tired mind can rest inside. It is the rhythm of things being put in their places, the knives wiped and racked, the cloths hung to dry, the copper gathered for the sink, the salt and the flour and the small tools returned to their shelves. Each thing has a place, and each thing is going back to it, so that in the morning the cooks will find everything where it belongs, and can begin again without a wasted motion. There is a deep and simple peace in that, the peace of a place being made ready. It is the same peace you feel when you tidy a room before bed, small and real, the sense that tomorrow has been made a little easier and kinder by the care you take tonight. And through all of it, the fire, the great range is being let down now gently from the high heat of service toward the low banked glow it will hold through the small hours. But it is not out, and it will not go out. As the stations fall quiet one by one and their small fires are damped, the central fire is kept, low and steady and warm, the one constant in the whole cooling room. The cooks glance at it as they work without quite meaning to, the way you glance at a sleeping child in a room. It is well. It is kept. Everything else can be put away, but the fire stays, and its low red glow will be there when the room is otherwise dark and everyone has gone. Let us stay in this closing down a moment longer, because it is such a good thing to rest inside. There is a reason it soothes to watch a busy place grow quiet in order. It is the opposite of everything that jangles a tired mind. A frantic room raises you. A room being calmly and surely put to rest lowers you, breath by breath, whether you mean it to or not. And that is exactly what this kitchen is doing now, all around you. Every motion in it is a settling motion. Every sound in it is a closing sound. The whole room is breathing out slowly after a long day of breathing in, and if you let it, your own breath will fall into step with it, the way it always does when we are near something calm. The cooks feel the change in their own bodies as they work. During the service there is no time to feel anything. You are all speed and heat and the next plate. It is only now, in the winding down, that the day catches up with them, and it arrives gently as a good tiredness, settling into the shoulders and the small of the back and the soles of the feet. They move slower now, and they do not fight it. A hand rests a moment on the edge of a table. A man straightens up and rolls his neck and lets out a long breath. The urgency is drained out of the room and left only the warmth and the quiet and the good, heavy tiredness of work that is nearly done. It is the tiredness that leads straight down into sleep, and the cooks know it, and they are letting it come. The stations are nearly closed now. The day cooks are wiping their hands, standing up straight, feeling the whole long day arrive in their backs and their shoulders all at once. Soon they will gather for the one meal the kitchen keeps for its own. But first, in the far corner, at the great sink, there is one more worker whose night is really only beginning, the youngest and the lowest of them all, whose hands will be busy long after the cooks have sat down. Let us go and stand with him a while. That is where we're going next, to the scullery and the copper, and the boy at the sink, with the fire kept low and warm behind us. In the corner of every great kitchen, there is a place the diners never imagine, and a worker they never thank. It is the scullery, the washing place, and it is where the humblest and hardest work of the whole kitchen is done. The old kitchens had a word for the boys and men who did it. They were the plongers, which is only the French word for those who plunge, who put their arms into the water. It was the bottom of the whole world of the kitchen. The first job a boy took when he came in with no skill at all, the job everyone hoped to rise out of. And yet nothing in the kitchen could happen without it. The grandest sauce in the world is no use if there is no clean pot to make it in tomorrow. And so, long after the cooks have finished, the scullery works on. Let us stand with the boy at the sink and let us call him Tom, and know that he stands in for all the real boys who did this hard and honest work. He is young, the youngest here, perhaps only a boy still by our reckoning. His sleeves are pushed up past the elbow, his arms are red from the hot water and the soda that cuts the grease. In front of him rises a small mountain of the day, the pots and the pans and the great copper, all of it waiting, and he works through it piece by piece without hurry, because hurry would only tire him faster, and the mountain will be there either way. And the copper. Think of the copper, because it is the pride and the burden of the scullery both. A kitchen like this cooked in copper, great gleaming pans and pots and moulds, dozens upon dozens of them, hung on the rails overhead so that the whole ceiling seemed to glow softly. Copper cooks beautifully. It also tarnishes and dulls, and must be scoured bright again after every use, by hand, with a paste and a cloth, and a good deal of patient rubbing. That was Tom's work, among the rest. To take a great dull greasy pan and scour it until it came up shining like a small warm sun, and then hang it back on the rail with all its brothers, so that in the morning the ceiling of the kitchen glowed again as though it had never been touched. Every one of those gleaming pans overhead is gleaming because a boy like Tom made it so, in the dark, while the city slept. It is wet work, and warm, and it has a rhythm all its own. The plunge of the pan into the water, the scrub and scrub and scrub, the rinse, the setting to drain, and then the next. Steam rises off the water into the warm air. The sound of it is soft and endless. Water and the low scrape of the cloth, a sound you could fall asleep to, and perhaps you are. There is something almost restful in watching a boy at a task like this. A task with no end in sight and no shortcut in it. Simply done, one piece at a time, until it is finished. He does not fight it. He has learned, young, the thing it can take a lifetime to learn, that the only way through a great deal of work is one piece of it at a time, without looking too hard at the whole. We should not sweeten it falsely. This was the hardest and least rewarded work in the kitchen, and a boy who did it was tired in his bones and paid very little for it. That is true, and the channel does not look away from it. But here is the other truth, held gently in the same hand. This work was also a beginning. The boy at the sink tonight might in a few years stand at a station of his own. Many of the great cooks began exactly here, arms in the water, scouring copper in the small hours. It was the bottom rung, and the bottom rung is still part of the ladder, and even now, tonight, there is a plain dignity in him, in the shine he leaves on the copper, in the way he does a thing well that no one will ever notice. He knows the copper is bright. He made it so. That is enough some nights. It is enough for anyone. Look up at the rail above him, at the copper he has already finished, catching the low light of the fire. That soft, warm glow overhead is his, made by his hands, and it will greet the cooks in the morning like something that grew there on its own. This is the whole secret of a great house told in one small corner. The beautiful, effortless things above are made by hard and patient hands below, in the dark, out of sight, and the beauty is real, and the hands are real, and both belong to the same warm night. You can hold both. You do not have to choose. There is a thing worth knowing about copper, and it turns the boy's hard work into something almost tender. Copper was used in a kitchen like this precisely because it is so responsive, so quick and even with heat, so good to cook in. But that same softness is why it dulls, and needs such constant care. The very quality that makes it precious is the quality that makes it demanding, and so the finest kitchens gave their most valuable pans into the hands of their humblest workers to keep, night after night, trusting a boy at a sink to guard the shine of the tools the great cooks depended on. There is a kind of quiet faith in that arrangement, when you look at it, the whole chain of the kitchen holding together, the master trusting the boy taking care of the master's tools, and none of it written down anywhere, all of it simply understood. And the boy, tired as he is, understands it. He knows the copper matters. He knows that a dull, greasy pan is a small failure, and a bright one is a small triumph, and that no one will praise the triumph, but everyone would notice the failure. So he scours, and he takes the care, and he leaves each pan gleaming, not because anyone is watching, but because the work is his and he has decided somewhere young and deep to do it well. That decision, made by a tired boy in the dark over a sink of hot water, is one of the quietly beautiful things in this whole house. It asks for nothing back. It simply makes a small part of the world a little brighter than it needs to be, and hangs it back on the rail and reaches for the next. The cooks are gathering now, at a table pulled out into the middle of the warm room, for the one meal of the whole long day that belongs to them and to no guest. It is the warmest hour of the night, the hour when the people who feed everyone else finally sit down and feed themselves. Tom will join them when he can, wiping his red hands on his apron. Let us go and sit with them. That is where we're going next, to the cook's own supper, with the fire kept low and warm at the heart of the table. Now comes the warmest hour of the whole night. The cooks sit down to eat. All day they have made food for other people. Course after course, plate after plate, sent up the stair and out of their hands to strangers in the bright rooms above. They have tasted 1,000 things and swallowed almost none of them, and now, at last, with the service over and the stations closed and the fire banked low, they make a meal for themselves, and they sit down together to eat it, and for a little while they are not cooks at all. They are simply a group of tired people sharing food in the warm, which is one of the oldest and best things human beings do. This meal had a plainness to it, and the plainness was part of its goodness. The cooks did not eat the grand dishes of the house. They ate cook's food, honest and simple, made often from the good plain things the day had not used, a hearty soup, bread, cheese, whatever was hale and warm and filling. But do not think it was poor. These were some of the finest cooks in America. Even their plainest supper, thrown together at midnight from the day's honest remains, was made with hands that knew exactly what they were doing. A cook's own supper in a kitchen like this was a humble meal cooked by great skill, and there is no better kind of meal than that. They pull a table out into the middle of the room, near the warmth of the range, and they gather around it. The sauce cook, Emile, his day's richness still on his hands, the roast cook and the fish cook and the vegetable cook, and Tom, when he can leave the sink a moment, sliding onto the end of the bench with his red arms and his tired grin. They sit close, in the warm, in the low light of the kept fire, and the talk begins, and it is the easy talk of people who have worked side by side all day and have nothing left to prove to each other. There is a particular kind of tiredness that is good, and this is the room for it. It is the tiredness that comes after real work well done, when the body is heavy and the mind is quiet and there is nowhere you need to be. You do not fight that kind of tiredness. You sink into it, gratefully, the way you sink into a warm bath. The cooks feel it now, all of them at once, the long day arriving in their shoulders and their feet as they finally sit still. And into that good tiredness comes the food, warm and simple, and the low talk, and the heat of the fire, and it is, in its plain way, a kind of heaven. If you have ever eaten a simple meal at the end of a hard, honest day, and felt it go into you like warmth into cold hands, you know exactly the hour these men are in. Listen to the talk without needing to catch the words. This is one of the warmest sounds there is, the low murmur of tired people eating together, and you do not need to understand a word of it for it to comfort you. There is a story, maybe, about something that went wrong at the height of the service, and can be laughed at now that it is safely past. There is a quiet complaint about a hard guest, made without real anger. There is talk of families, of homes across the city they will go back to before dawn, of a child who is sick or a wife who waits up. There is a long, companionable silence while everyone simply eats. The words rise and fall like something warm, and you could fall asleep to them, and that is exactly right. Let the murmur of the cook's own supper be a sound you drift on. This is the true family of the kitchen, and it is worth seeing clearly for what it was. These men spent more of their waking lives with each other than with anyone at home. They worked shoulder to shoulder in the heat. They depended on each other through every hard service. They knew each other's moods and troubles and small kindnesses. The kitchen was hard, and the hours were cruel, and the pay was small, and also it was a place of deep belonging, of a rough and real brotherhood, of the warmth that comes from doing a hard thing together with people you trust. Both were true. The gilded rooms above held the richest people in America, and here below, at a plain table by the fire, were people who had something the richest people often did not, which was each other, and the warmth of shared work, and a simple supper eaten together at the end of a long day. There is an old truth hidden in this hour, and it is a warm one to fall asleep on. The people who serve are so rarely served. All day, all evening, these cooks poured out care for others, made beauty for strangers, sent warmth up the stair to people they would never meet. That is a good life in its way, a life of giving. But there is something almost holy in the moment, when the givers finally receive, when the ones who feed everyone else sit down and are fed, even if they must feed themselves. For this 1 hour the current runs the other way. The care flows back toward the people who spend their days giving it out. And they take it, gratefully, the warm soup and the good bread and the company, and they let themselves be filled for a change. You are allowed to sit in that current tonight too, on the receiving side of it. So much of a life can be spent tending to others, carrying the weight, keeping the fires for everyone else. But right now, in the dark, with this quiet voice in your ear and the warm kitchen glowing in your mind, nothing is being asked of you. You are not the cook tonight. You are the one being fed. You are the guest at the warm table, or better still, you are simply held, the way the cooks are held now by the fire and the food and each other. Let the care flow toward you for once. You have kept enough fires. Tonight someone else is keeping this one, and you may simply rest in its warmth. The meal winds down slowly. No one wants to be the first to rise, because rising means the warm hour is over, and the last of the night's work must be done and the cold walk home begun. So they linger, the way you linger at a good table, letting the warmth hold them a little longer. The fire glows low beside them. The copper shines faintly overhead. Somewhere above the great house sleeps, and does not know or care about this small warm gathering at its foundation, this heart beating quietly in the dark. But we know. We're sitting with them, and it is, I think, the best seat in the whole famous building tonight. Soon they will rise and stretch, and go their ways, some home into the cold, some to the last tasks of the night. The food must be put away where it will keep. Let us follow it, gently, into the coolest and stillest rooms of the house, where the stores are kept against tomorrow. That is where we're going next, down to the cold larder and the ice, with the warmth of the supper still on us and the fire kept low behind. Deep in the house, away from the fire, there is a place that is always cool, and it is one of the quietest rooms of the night. A great kitchen needs cold as much as it needs heat, and holding cold in the age we are visiting was a real and skilled thing, because there was no machine to make it. There were only cool rooms, built deep and thick-walled and set away from the fire, and there was ice, cut from frozen lakes and rivers in the depth of winter and stored, packed in sawdust to last through the year. Think of that for a moment gently. The cold that keeps this kitchen's food was cut, as solid blocks from a frozen lake, in some far cold month, hauled and stored and hoarded, so that even in the heat of summer this house could keep a fish fresh and freeze a sweet hard. The winter itself was saved up and used all year. There is something almost like magic in it. The frozen season kept in a dark room against the warm months. Let us step into the cold larder now, and feel the change. It is a different cold from the winter street outside. The street cold is sharp and moving, full of wind. This is a still cold, even and clean and deep. The cold of a cellar or a cave, the cold of a place built to hold one temperature forever. The air is quiet here in a way it is nowhere else in the house. There is no fire's breath, no bustle. There is only the faint drip of melting ice somewhere, and the cool, and the smell of clean stone and cold meat and stored things. It is a solemn sort of room, almost a chapel, the pantry of the whole great house. Here is where the day's careful saving comes to rest. The good stocks that Emile strained, carried down and set to keep. The fish packed back into ice. The meats for tomorrow hung or laid out cool. The butter, firm in the chill. The cream, the eggs. All the raw goodness that the morning cooks will reach for when they come in, kept safe and cold through the night by these thick walls and this saved winter. A kitchen is not only what it cooks, it is also what it keeps, and how well it keeps it, and this cold, quiet room is the memory and the promise of the kitchen both, holding yesterday's care and tomorrow's breakfast in the same still chill. There is a keeper here too, or at least a cook who tends this cold world, the man of the larder, and let us give him only that, the larder cook, since his was quieter work than the men at the fire. His domain is the cold and the stores. He knows what the house has and what it needs. He knows which fish must be used first and which will keep, how much butter remains, whether the cream will last the morning. His is a careful, counting, tending sort of mind, the mind of a person who keeps a store against the future. On his last round of the night he moves through the cold rooms, checking, setting things right, making sure that what should be cold is cold, and what should be covered is covered, so that nothing good is lost to the dark hours. Then he too will go, and the cold room will be left alone with its saved winter and its quiet. Stand here a moment longer in the still cold, because it has its own kind of peace, different from the warmth of the fire but just as real. The warmth of the kitchen is a busy living peace, full of breath and movement. This is a peace of stillness, of things held safe and unchanging, of a room where nothing needs to happen and nothing will. Both kinds of peace live in this one house, a few steps apart, the warm and the cold, the fire and the ice. A house that could hold both, and hold them well, could do anything. It could even, as we saw, put them on a single plate, the frozen heart and the warm cloud around it, the whole building in one impossible suite. The cold room is where half of that miracle was kept. Let's stay in the cool a little longer, because the ice itself is a story worth resting on. In the age we are visiting, a great house or a great restaurant kept a whole trade alive simply by needing to stay cold. Out on the frozen lakes and rivers, in the deep of winter, men went out with saws and horses and cut the thick ice into great blocks, and hauled them and packed them in sawdust in ice houses where, astonishingly, they would keep for months, even through the heat of summer. Whole ships and whole fortunes were built on ice, on the simple miracle of moving winter through time and space. And some of that saved winter ended up here, in the cellars of Delmonico's, keeping the cream sweet and the fish fresh and the sweets frozen hard for the tables above. So when you stand in this cold larder, you are standing inside a piece of last winter, carefully saved. The cold on your face was once a frozen lake somewhere north of the city. Men you will never know cut it and carried it and stored it, so that this kitchen could keep its promises months later in the warm. There is a long chain of hands behind even the cold in this room, just as there is behind the warmth of the fire. Everything in this house, the heat and the cold alike, came to it through patient human work, done far away and long before, by people who never saw the tables their labour served. The whole gilded world upstairs rested on that quiet foundation of hands, and the cold room is one of its most surprising corners. And there is a stillness here that is very close to sleep if you will let it be. The cold larder does not move. Nothing in it hurries. It is a room whose whole purpose is to hold things unchanging, to stop time gently, to keep tonight's goodness safe for tomorrow. A room like that has a deep calm in it, the calm of a held breath, the calm of a thing kept safe. You can rest in that calm. You do not have to keep anything safe tonight yourself. The house is doing it for you, in its cold rooms and its locked cellars, gathering everything precious in against the dark. Let the still cold of this quiet room be one more place where nothing is asked of you and everything is kept. And beyond the cold larder, deeper still, There is a room more valuable than any other in the whole building, a room kept dark and even and cool for a different reason. It holds no food at all. It holds the wine, ranked in its thousands of bottles, worth a fortune that is hard to say aloud. And it has its own keeper, an old man of great trust who is closing it now for the night. Let us go down to him. That is where we are going next, to the cellar and the cellarman deeper into the quiet, with the kept fire a warm memory now above us. Below even the cold larder, at the very bottom of the house, lies the cellar, and it is the strong quiet treasury of the whole place. Every great house of this age was proud of its wine, and Delmonico's was proud above almost all. The wine cellar of this house was famous. The family that built the restaurant and the man who truly made it great, Lorenzo Delmonico, spent enormous sums on wine, laid down and kept and grown more valuable with the years. We are told, plainly, that the money tied up in the wine of this house was seldom less than $250,000. $250,000. In the age we are visiting, that was not a fortune. It was several fortunes, a sum that could have built a mansion or two on the avenue and furnished them. And it lay here, in the dark and the cool, as bottles, in their thousands, resting on their sides in the stillness. Let us go down into it quietly, because a great wine cellar at night is one of the most peaceful rooms in the world. The stair is stone and it turns down into the earth. The air grows cool and even and still, the perfect unchanging cool that wine loves, held there by the deep walls and the earth around them. It is dark, lit only by the small lamp of the man who keeps it. And on every side, ranked in their racks from floor to low ceiling, lie the bottles, thousands upon thousands of them, each one resting, each one waiting, the whole dark room a kind of sleeping thing, breathing very slowly. The keeper of this room is the cellarman, and his was a post of the deepest trust. Let us give him a little age and a little dignity, an older man who has kept this cellar for many years, whose hands know the bottles and whose memory holds the map of the whole dark room. In a house whose wine was worth $250,000, the man who held the keys to the cellar held something close to the heart of the house's wealth. He was chosen for his steadiness and his honesty, and he had earned that choosing over long years. He is not a grand man. He is a careful one, and careful is worth more than grand in a room like this. Watch him make his last round of the night. He moves down the rows with his small lamp, and the light slides along the resting bottles and wakes small gleams from them and passes on. He is checking in his quiet way that all is well, that the racks are sound, that the cool is holding, that nothing has been disturbed. He has brought up over the evening the bottles the great dinners called for, and now he sees that the cellar is closed and settled for the night. Then he climbs the stair and he locks the heavy door behind him, and the whole treasury is sealed in its dark and its cool until morning. The thousands of sleeping bottles left alone in the deep quiet of the earth. There is a lovely stillness to think about here, if your mind is still awake enough to hold it, and if it is not, let it wash over you as calm. Wine is patience made drinkable. Every one of those bottles is time, held still. A wine laid down in this cellar might rest here for years, for decades, slowly and secretly becoming itself in the dark, ask nothing, doing nothing, simply resting and improving in the cool. $250,000, sleeping in the earth. There is no rush anywhere in that room. There is only the long, slow, patient work of time on the wine, happening in the dark whether anyone watches or not, the way so much of the best work of the world happens, quietly, unseen, taking exactly as long as it takes. The cellarman is the guardian of all that patience, and there is a rest in his kind of work too, a rest we can borrow. He does not make the wine better by fretting over it. He only keeps it safe and cool and still, and lets time do the rest. That is his whole art, to keep the conditions right and then to leave the slow work alone. It is a good model for a night like this. Some things get better only if you stop touching them and let them rest in the dark. Sleep is one of them. You do not have to work at it tonight. You only have to keep still and let the cool quiet hold you, and let the slow, patient work happen on its own, the way it happens to the wine in the dark below. Think, too, of the sheer number of the bottles gently, the way you might count stars and lose the count and not mind. Thousands of them lie here in the dark, enough to pour out over years of great dinners and never run dry. A whole underground library of wine, each bottle a small sealed world, each one carrying a particular year and a particular hillside far across the ocean, all of them gathered here beneath a restaurant on Fifth Avenue and laid down to rest in the cool New York earth. When a grand dinner was given upstairs, the cellarman would go down into this quiet with his lamp and choose, and carry up into the light and the noise a few bottles that had waited years in the dark for exactly that evening. And then the cellar would close again over the thousands that remained, still waiting, still resting, their evening still ahead of them. It is a patient, faithful sort of wealth, wine in a cellar, and there is comfort in its patience. It does not need to be watched every moment. It does not spoil if you look away. It asks only to be kept cool and still and left alone, and it repays that keeping slowly over years, growing quietly better in the dark. The cellarman has spent his working life in service to that slow patience, and it has made him patient too, an unhurried man in an unhurried room, keeping a treasure that keeps itself if you only let it rest. On a night built for rest, there are worse companions to drift off beside than an old man and a dark room full of sleeping wine, all of it waiting, in no hurry at all, for a morning that will come whether anyone worries about it or not. The cellar is locked now, the treasure sealed. Above it, back up in the kitchen level, there is one more thing of great value to be seen to before the house is fully secured, the silver and the fine plate, counted and locked away by careful hands. Let us go back up toward the warmth to see it done. That is where we're going next, to the plate room and the silver, rising again toward the kept fire. Back up in the warmer part of the house, another careful ritual of trust is being carried out, the counting and the keeping of the silver. A house like this ate off silver and fine plate, a great deal of it, and it was worth a great deal, and so, every night it was gathered and counted and locked away. This was not done in fear exactly, and we need not make it grim. It was simply what careful stewardship looked like in a house responsible for so many valuable things. The silver was part of the house's wealth, as surely as the wine in the cellar, and like the wine it had its keeper and its nightly ritual and its safe dark room, the plate room, where it slept behind a locked door until it was needed again. Let us watch the plate man at his work and give him no more name than that, because his was a quiet, careful trade. He has gathered the silver from all its journeys of the evening, the pieces washed and dried and brought to him, and now he counts it. Piece by piece, he counts it. The knives and the forks and the spoons in their dozens and their scores, the serving dishes, the fine special things brought out only for the grandest tables, each is accounted for, checked against what the house knows it holds, and set in its place in the case. It is patient, unglamorous, exacting work, the work of a person who can be trusted with valuable things and has been, for years, and it is done the same careful way every single night. There is a quiet beauty in silver at rest, and this is the hour to see it. During the day it flashes and works, cutting and lifting and serving, catching the light on 100 tables. Now it lies still in its cases, softly gleaming in the low light, each piece in its slot, the whole set at rest together. Silver that is used and cared for takes on a particular soft shine over the years, a warmth in the metal that new silver does not have, the mark of long service and constant polishing. Some of these pieces have been in the house for a very long time, cleaned every night by careful hands, handled by thousands of guests who never thought about them, and they carry all of that quietly in their soft old gleam. An object that is used and kept and polished for years becomes something more than an object. It becomes a kind of memory you can hold. Think of the polishing alone, the endless gentle labour of it, because it is another of the invisible works that made the bright house bright. Silver tarnishes. It must be cleaned again and again by hand to keep its shine. Every fork on every table gleamed because someone quietly in a back room had polished it, and would polish it again tomorrow and the day after, without end. It is the same story as the copper in the scullery, the same story as the clean white cloth, the same story as the swept floors and the low-kind lights. The effortless shine above is made by patient hands below. There is no shine anywhere in this house that was not put there by someone's care. The plate man finishes his count. Everything is accounted for. He closes the cases and locks the plate room door, and another piece of the house is made safe for the night. It is worth noticing what has just happened across these last rooms, gently as the house closes down. One by one, the valuable and vulnerable things of this great establishment have been gathered in and made safe. The food, cooled and covered in the larder. The winter, saved in its ice. The wine, sealed in the cellar. The silver, counted and locked in its room. The house is drawing itself in for the night, gathering its treasures close, the way a person checks the doors and windows before bed, so that everything precious is safe and nothing is left out in the dark. And that drawing in, that making safe, is itself a deep comfort, maybe the deepest the night offers. There is a reason we lock the door before we sleep, and it is not only against danger. It is a small ceremony that tells our own hearts the day is done and we may let go. The house is performing that ceremony now on a grand scale, room by room, treasure by treasure. Everything is being gathered in and kept, and you, warm in your own bed, are inside that same gathering. Whatever is precious to you is safe enough for tonight. The doors are being locked, the treasures kept, the house made ready for the dark. There is nothing left out that needs you. You may let go. There is one more quiet thought to rest on here, about the silver and about all the kept things of this house. Everything precious in this building is being tucked away by someone who was trusted with it. The silver has its trusted man. The wine has its trusted man. The whole house runs on a web of quiet trust, person after person given something valuable to keep, and keeping it faithfully night after night unwatched. It is easy, from a distance, to see only the wealth of a place like this, but up close in the dark what you see is trust, a great deal of it, small and steady and human, holding the whole glittering thing together. The house was rich in money, it was also rich in faithful people, and the second kind of wealth is the one that actually kept the doors open. You are held in that same web tonight, in your own way. Somewhere someone has locked your doors, or you have locked them yourself, and the small trusted acts that keep a life safe have been done, and you may rest inside them. The plate man locks the silver away and does not lie awake worrying whether it is safe, because he has done his part and can trust the lock and the night. You may do the same. Whatever you have gathered in and made safe tonight is safe enough. The careful work is done. The valuable things are kept. You do not have to guard anything now. You can let the trusted locks hold and the faithful night keep and simply sink. Only a few tasks remain now before the house is fully given over to the night, the last securing, the doors and the gas, the setting of the watch, and then the great fire will be banked in earnest, and the deep quiet will come. Let us follow the manager on his last round as he makes the whole house safe. That is where we're going next, to the securing of the house, with the fire waiting to be banked at the warm heart of it all. Now the house begins to make itself safe for the night, and this is where the deepest quiet begins. Someone must see that the whole great building is secure before it can truly rest, and in a house like this that duty fell to the manager, or to a senior man he trusted, who made a last slow round of everything. Let us follow him, this careful man on his final circuit, because his round is the moment the house passes fully out of the day and into the keeping of the night. He carries a lamp. He moves without hurry. He has done this so many times that his feet know the way in the dark, and he could very nearly make the round with his eyes closed, checking each thing by feel and habit and long knowledge. He checks the doors first, because doors are where a house meets the world. The great front door, through which all the guests came and went, is bolted now, heavy and final, closed against the cold avenue until morning. The service doors through which the food and the coal and the market goods came in are secured. The little doors between the working world and the gilded one are closed. Each bolt he throws is a small solid sound in the quiet, and each one means the same thing, that the world is shut out now, that what is inside is safe, that the house has drawn its walls close around everything it holds. He checks the gas, because in the age we are visiting an unwatched flame was the thing a careful man feared most. Every jet that should be out he makes sure is out. Every low light left burning for the watchman's sake he makes sure is steady and safe. A house lit by flame had to be tended like a sleeping fire all night long, and the securing of the gas was as important as the bolting of any door. He moves through the rooms, making sure that nothing burns that should not, that the only fires left alive in the whole building are the ones meant to be tended and safe. And he checks the quiet itself, in a way, listening to the house as he goes. A person who knows a building well can hear whether it is settling rightly. The tick of the cooling pipes, the creak of a floor giving up the day's warmth, the wind at the tall windows, the deep hush of empty rooms. He listens for anything wrong in all that, a sound that should not be there, and hears nothing, only the ordinary music of a great house going to sleep. It is well. Everything is as it should be. The rooms are empty and clean, the treasures are locked away, the doors are bolted, the flames are safe. Here, if you like, is a small saying for the night, the shape of the whole house settling, and I will give it to you plainly so you can return to it whenever you surface. The fire is kept. The doors are bolted. The house is turning over slowly toward morning. That is the state of things now, and it will stay the state of things all night. Whenever you drift up out of sleep for a moment and wonder where you are, you can come back to it. The fire is kept. The doors are bolted. The house is turning over slowly toward morning. 3 small, true things, and then you may sink again. There is a reason the securing of a house soothes us so deeply, and it is worth naming softly. To bolt the door at night is one of the oldest human comforts there is, older than this house, older than the city, as old as walls themselves. It says, in a language below words, that the day is done, that the dangers of the world are shut outside, that inside this circle we are safe and may let go. The manager throwing his bolts is doing, on a grand scale, the very thing you do when you check your own door before bed. And the feeling is the same, and it is meant for you too. The doors are bolted. You're inside the safe circle. Nothing out in the dark needs you now. Watch the small solid ceremony of the bolts a little longer because there is real peace in it. A great door being closed for the night makes a sound unlike any other. A deep and final and satisfying sound, the sound of the outside world being gently set aside until morning. The manager throws each bolt with the ease of a long habit, and each one lands home with that low solid knock, and with each one the house grows a little safer, a little more sealed, a little more its own. There is nothing anxious in it. It is not fear that bolts a door at night. It is care. It is the same care that draws a blanket up over a sleeping child, the wish to close the warmth in and the cold out, to make a safe circle in the dark and gather everything loved inside it. He passes through the lower rooms and the upper ones, and everywhere the same quiet is settling. The kitchen, warm and nearly empty, its fire banked low. The dining rooms dark and clean and cool, the offices, the passages, the stairs. He knows the particular feel of each at this hour, and tonight each one feels right, settled, at rest. A house has moods, if you keep one long enough, and a good manager can feel whether the building is uneasy or at peace. Tonight it is at peace. It has done its work well. It is full and warm and secure, and it is ready to rest. He can feel the whole great structure letting go around him, floor by floor, the day draining out of it, the night settling in. And as he makes his round, the house grows quieter behind him, room by room, the way a mind grows quiet as you check off the last small worries of the day. This door done, this flame safe, this window fast. One by one the open questions of the house are closed and answered, until there are none left, until everything that could be seen to has been seen too, and the whole building can simply be still. That is a feeling worth carrying into your own rest tonight. The day's small tasks are done, or done enough. The doors of the day are closing one by one. There is nothing left open that needs you. You may let the last of it go. His round is nearly done. The house is secure, the day fully shut away. There is only the fire still to be banked in earnest, and the watch still to be set, the one moving light that will keep the sleeping house company all night long. The manager hands the building over now to the man who will walk it until dawn. Let us go and meet him as he lights his lamp. That is where we are going next, to the watchman and his round, with the fire kept low and warm at the heart of the house he guards. In every great sleeping building there is one person who does not sleep, and tonight, in this house, it is the night watchman. His is one of the oldest and quietest of all the keeping trades, and one of the most comforting to think about as you drift, because his whole job, all night long, is simply to keep watch so that everyone else may safely let go. Let us give him a name and a little life, and call him Michael, and know that he stands in for the real men who kept these long lonely watches. He is not young. This is often an older man's work, a job for someone steady and patient, someone who does not mind his own company, someone the house can trust with its dark hours. He has walked this building so many nights that it is more familiar to him asleep than it ever was awake. He lights his lamp. That small act is the true beginning of the deep night. All through the house the lights have gone down and out, room by room, until the great building stands dark. And now one light is lit against all that dark, one small, warm, moving flame, and it will travel the whole house through the small hours, the single waking point of light in a sleeping place. There is something very old and very tender in that image, the one lamp in the dark building, the one watcher awake among the many who sleep. It is the shape of care itself, and it has kept people safe and comforted since long before this house was built. Watch him begin his round. He moves out of the little room where the low light burned and into the dark of the house, and the lamp goes with him, throwing its soft circle of light ahead of him and leaving the dark to close up gently behind. He walks the passages. He climbs, unhurried, to the upper floors. He passes through the great dining rooms we saw earlier, dark now and cool and clean, the chairs squared, the mirrors holding only the small moving flame of his lamp as he passes and then letting it go. He's not afraid of these rooms. He knows them. To him the empty ballroom is not eerie. It is simply the ballroom, resting, and he is glad to see it well. He checks as he goes, in his patient way. A door, to see it is still bolted. A window, to see it is still fast. The gas, to see that nothing burns amiss. He is watching for fire above all, always fire, in a house of flame and coal and a priceless cellar, and part of what makes him so valuable is that he never stops watching for it, night after night, even though on nearly every night there is nothing at all to find. That is the strange faithfulness of his kind of work. He guards against a thing that almost never comes, and the reward for his whole career is, mostly, that nothing happens. A quiet night is his success. An uneventful round is the thing done perfectly. And he checks the fire, of course, the one fire that is meant to be alive. On his way through the lower part of the house he comes to the kitchen, and there, in the dark, the great range still glows, banked low, a deep red warmth behind its iron. He sees that it is well. He warms his hands at it, maybe for a moment on a cold night, because even a watchman is allowed a small comfort, and there is no warmer spot in the whole building than beside the kept fire. Then he moves on, and the fire glows on behind him, and the two of them keep the night together in their different ways, the fire that does not go out and the man who does not sleep. Think about what he gives this quiet walking man, because it is exactly what you are receiving tonight. He gives the gift of being watched over, because he is awake, everyone else may sleep. Because he keeps the watch, no one else has to. The whole sleeping house rests inside his wakefulness, held safe by one patient man with a lamp, and most of them will never know his name or think of him at all. That is the nature of the gift. It is given quietly to people who are not even aware they are receiving it, asking nothing back. And you are among them tonight. Someone is keeping the watch. You do not have to. You may let your own eyes close and drift, and trust the lamp in the dark to keep going without you. There is a rhythm to his walking that is worth falling into, because it is the rhythm of the whole deep night. He does not hurry. He could not hurry if he wanted to, because hurry would defeat the purpose. The watch is not a race. It is a slow, even, unbroken presence, a steady moving through the dark hour after hour at the same patient pace. His footsteps are soft and regular on the floors, a quiet tread that goes and pauses and goes again, and if you listen for it, you can feel your own breathing slow to match it. That is what a watchman gives a sleeping house. Not only safety, but rhythm, a slow, steady heartbeat of care moving through the dark, telling everything that sleeps, all is well, all is well, all is well. He knows the house at night better than anyone alive knows it, better than the guests who fill it, better even than the chef who commands its kitchen. Because he alone sees it like this, empty and dark and at rest. He knows which stair creaks and which does not. He knows where the draught comes in on a cold night and where the warmth pools. He knows the sounds the great building makes as it settles, and which are ordinary and which are not. All of that knowledge lives in him quietly, the deep, intimate knowledge of a place that only comes from keeping it through its dark hours, alone, night after night, when it has taken off all its daytime show and is simply, plainly itself, and he does not mind the solitude. That is part of what makes him right for the work. Some people are frightened by an empty building in the dark, and some are comforted by it, and the watchman is the second kind. To him the dark house is not lonely, it is companionable. The banked fire is his warmth, the sleeping rooms are his charges, the one lamp is his friend. He walks his rounds in a kind of peace that people who cannot bear their own company never find. The deep, quiet peace of a person alone in the dark with a task he trusts and a house he loves. There are worse ways to spend a night than that, and few more peaceful. His round will carry him through the whole long night, the same slow, patient circuit, again and again, the one light moving through the dark house. But before we let him walk on, we should stay a while at the fire he warmed his hands on, because now, in earnest, it is being banked for the night, and that banking is the very heart of everything. Let us go back to the range. That is where we're going next, to the banking of the great fire, the warm secret at the centre of the whole sleeping house. Here is the heart of the whole night, the one act everything else has been circling, the banking of the great fire. We have come back to the range, the long wall of black iron along one side of the kitchen, the fire that has burned since before the first lunch of the day. All evening it roared at the full heat of service. Through the closing down it was let gently lower, and now, in the deep quiet with the guests long gone and the cooks nearly all away, it is time to bank it for the night, to settle it into the low, slow, living glow it will hold until the bakers come before dawn. This is the most important thing that happens in the kitchen all night, and it is done by one of the last cooks to leave, quietly, with great care, because everything depends on it. To bank a fire is not to put it out. That is the whole beautiful point, and it is worth understanding gently, because it is the very shape of what this channel is about. A fire left to blaze would burn itself out by morning and leave cold ashes and hours of work to rebuild. A fire simply extinguished would be dead, and the morning would begin cold and slow. But a banked fire is neither. A banked fire is a fire put to sleep. The cook rakes it down and feeds it a bed of fresh coal, and damps it low, closing it in so that it burns slowly, deep and low and red, using very little, giving little, but never ever going out. It sleeps. And in the morning, with a little air and a little coal, it wakes again in minutes to full roaring life, as though it had only been resting, which it had. Watch the last cook do it, this small sacred task. He rakes the glowing bed of the fire down level. He shovels on fresh coal, banking it up, covering the live heart of the fire with new fuel that will catch slowly through the night. He closes the dampers, cutting back the air so the fire draws down low and quiet, and the great roaring range of the daytime becomes, in a few careful minutes, a low deep bed of red, glowing softly behind its iron doors, breathing almost imperceptibly, holding its heat close, settling in for the dark. He watches it a moment to see that it is taken rightly, that it is neither too high nor too near to dying. Then he nods to himself, satisfied, and he too can go. Think of what that kept fire means, resting there in the dark, because it is the truest image the whole night offers. All around it the house has gone dark and cold and still. The lights are out, the rooms are empty, the treasures are locked away, the people are gone or sleeping, and here, at the very foundation of the great house, one fire is kept alive, low and warm and faithful, through all the black hours, so that the morning can come. It is not spectacular. It gives almost no light. To look at, it is only a low red glow behind iron. But it is the single most important thing in the whole building tonight, because it is the thread of warmth and life that runs unbroken from today into tomorrow, the promise that the house will wake, the small living heart that never stops. There is a reason this image comforts so deeply, and you may already feel it, below thought. The banked fire is what we most want to be on a hard night. Not blazing, not spent, not cold, but kept. Held at a low warm glow through the dark, asked for nothing, giving nothing, simply resting and staying alive, safe until the morning wakes us gently back to full life. That is what sleep is at its best. It is a banking of your own fire. You do not have to burn tonight. You do not have to give light or heat to anyone. You have only to be kept, low and warm and safe, through the dark hours, until the morning comes and wakes you easily back. The great range is showing you how. Let yourself be banked. Let your fire drop to a low warm glow. You will not go out. You are only resting. And notice that the kept fire needs no watching to stay alive. Once it is banked rightly, it simply holds, hour after hour, on its own in the dark, with no one tending it at all. The cook has gone, the kitchen is empty, and still the fire keeps, faithful and low, doing the one thing it knows how to do, staying warm until morning. It does not need your worry, it does not need anyone's. It was made to keep itself through the night, and it does. So you can stop tending it in your mind. You can stop tending anything. The fire is kept, and it will keep itself, and all you have to do is rest beside its low red glow and let the warmth hold you. There is a craft in the banking that deserves a moment, because it is not as simple as it looks, and the ease of it is the mark of a skilled hand. Bank a fire too high, feed it too much air, and it burns through its coal and dies before dawn, or worse, flares up untended in an empty kitchen. Bank it too low, damp it too hard, and it smothers and goes cold, and the morning begins with the long cold labour of raising it from nothing. The right banking is a matter of judgment, learned over years, a feel for exactly how much coal and exactly how much air will hold this particular fire, in this particular range, at the low steady glow that lasts the night and no more. The last cook has that feel in his hands. He does not measure it, he knows it, the way you know how hard to pull a door to make it latch without slamming, and once it is done, once the fire is banked just right, it becomes the most patient thing in the whole house. It asks for nothing, it makes no sound, it gives almost no light, it simply holds, deep and low and red, hour after hour, keeping its own warmth alive in the dark with no one near it at all. There is a great steadiness in it, a reliability that the tired mind can lean its whole weight against. Whatever else changes in the long night, the fire keeps. The watchman comes and goes, the hours turn, the snow falls, and the low red glow stays exactly as it is, faithful, unwavering, warm, the one thing in all the dark house you can absolutely count on to be there when you next look. Let that steadiness be yours to lean on tonight. You do not have to keep your own fire burning bright through these hours. You do not have to give light or heat or effort to anyone or anything. Like the great range, you are allowed to bank down low, to draw your warmth close, to give nothing and do nothing, and simply hold quietly alive through the dark until the morning comes with its little air and its little light and wakes you gently back to full flame. That is not going out. That is being kept. The fire is teaching you the difference, glowing there in the dark. Let yourself be banked, low and warm and safe, and trust that you will keep until morning, because you will. The fire is banked now, settled into its long, low glow for the dark. The kitchen is nearly empty, but there is one more small living thing being started in the warm room before the deep of the night comes, one more quiet promise of the morning set going in the dark. The bakers are setting the first dough. Let us go and see it done. That is where we are going next, to the sponge set to rise, with the banked fire glowing low and faithful at the heart of the room. Before the kitchen falls fully silent, one last living thing is set going in the warm dark, and it is the beginning of the morning's bread. This is one of the loveliest quiet secrets of a great house at night, and it is easy to miss, because it happens softly, off in a warm corner while everything else is closing down. Bread cannot be hurried. Good bread, the warm fresh bread a great house set before its guests at dawn, needs hours to become itself, hours of slow secret work by the living yeast in the dough, and so it cannot be started in the morning. It must be started tonight in the dark and left to work while the whole city sleeps, so that it is ready in the small hours to be shaped and baked and drawn out warm by first light. The morning's bread begins the night before, in a bowl, in the quiet. Let us watch the baker set it going, and let us call him Anton, and say plainly that he stands in for the real bakers who did this work, for Delmonico's had its own bakery and its own bakers, as any great house of dining did. Anton has come in for this, or has stayed late, or will wake in a room in the house to tend it. He takes flour and water and a little of the living yeast, and he brings them together into a soft loose beginning of a dough, what the old bakers called a sponge. It is not bread yet. It is barely anything, a wet pale mass in a great bowl, but it is alive. The yeast is in it, and the yeast will work all night, slowly, patiently, turning this soft nothing into the beginning of 100 warm loaves. He covers the bowl with a cloth, and he sets it in a warm place, near enough to the banked fire to stay comfortable through the night, and then he leaves it. That is the whole of it. He does not knead it now, or shape it, or bake it. He only sets it going and leaves it to its slow secret work in the warm dark. And through all the deep hours of the night, while the house sleeps and the watchman walks and the fire glows low, the sponge will be quietly, invisibly alive, rising, working, breathing in its bowl, becoming, all on its own, the thing the morning needs. Of all the quiet workers in this house tonight, the yeast is the quietest, and it never rests at all. There is something deeply comforting in that covered bowl, rising in the dark, and it is worth resting your tired mind against it. It is the morning, already beginning, already on its way, while the night is still deep. It is a promise made in the dark and kept while everyone sleeps. You do not have to do anything to make the morning come. It is already being prepared for you, quietly, by processes older than any of us, in a warm bowl under a cloth, whether you wake or sleep. The bread is already rising. The morning is already on its way. You may let go of the night completely and trust that the dawn is being made ready. Without you, in the warm dark. And the day's last practical things are readied too, gently, while the sponge begins its work. The orders for the market are gone over, the list of what the house will need when its buyers set out into the dark before dawn. The bakery is made ready for the small hours. The last small preparations for tomorrow are laid, quietly, by tired hands, so that when the time comes the morning can unfold smoothly, one readied thing leading to the next. A great house did not simply wake and scramble. It prepared its own tomorrow, the night before, patiently, in the dark, so that the morning could arrive already half made. There is a whole trade of the night hidden in that quiet bowl, and it is worth a gentle thought as the dough begins its work. The baker's craft is unlike any other in the kitchen, because it runs on a different clock. The cooks work to the rush of the service, fast and hot and immediate. The baker works to the slow patient time of the yeast, which cannot be hurried by any skill or any will. He must think in hours, in the long overnight, in the slow rise. He sets a thing going and then he waits, because the waiting is the work, and the dough does its own becoming in its own time whether he watches or not. There is a patience in bakers, a settledness, that comes from a lifetime of working alongside something alive and unhurried that will not be rushed. It is a good patience to be near on a night like this, and think of the faith in it, the quiet, ordinary faith of setting a sponge at midnight for a bread you will not see until dawn. The baker does not stand over the bowl all night willing it to rise. He sets it, and covers it, and trusts it, and goes to rest himself, or turns to other things, and lets the slow living work happen in the warm dark without him. He has done it 10,000 times, and 10,000 times the dough has risen faithfully on its own, while he slept or worked elsewhere, so that by the small hours it is ready. That is a faith built on long experience, the faith that the good, slow processes of the world will do their work whether we watch them or not. The bread will rise, it always rises. He can let it. You can let it too. You do not have to watch over the morning to make it come. You do not have to will the dawn up out of the dark by staying awake to meet it. It is already being made ready for you, quietly, by things older and more patient than any worry, a fire that keeps itself, a dough that rises on its own, a slow turning of the night toward the light that has never once failed to arrive. All of it is happening without you, in the warm dark, exactly as it should. You may set down the whole night, the way the baker sets down the covered bowl, and trust it to do its slow work and rest. Now the warm room is nearly empty of people. The stations are closed and clean. The fire is banked to its low red glow. The sponge is rising under its cloth. The last of the night cooks are wiping their hands and reaching for their coats and their long cold walk home. And the great kitchen, which roared and blazed all day, is settling at last into the deep stillness it will hold through the darkest hours, warm and quiet and faithful, keeping itself waiting for the bakers to come. The busy part of the night is ending, the still part is beginning. Let us leave the kitchen to its quiet a while, and go up once more through the sleeping house, to see how the great rooms rest in the dark now that everything is secured and banked and still. That is where we are going next, to the rooms above at rest, with the fire kept low and warm far below them, holding the whole house through the night. Let us go up through the sleeping house one more time gently and see it all at rest. The whole building is quiet now, from the banked fire at its foundation to the dark rooms at its top, and there is a particular peace in a great place fully asleep that is worth moving through slowly. This is the cutaway, the drifting out, the moment when we may go where no one is, through the empty rooms of the resting house, and simply be with them in the dark. Nothing is happening here now, and that is exactly the comfort of it. The work is done, the house is still, we are only visiting the quiet. Come up the service stair once more and out into the dining rooms. The cafe by the street is dark, its little tables bare and clean, one low light by the door, the gas lamps of the square glowing faintly through the windows. Up on the second floor, the red and gold ballroom rests in the dark, its mirrors holding only shadow now. its floor bare and gleaming faintly, the whole warm colour of it gone soft and deep in the low light. The private rooms are dark behind their doors, and higher still, the banquet hall that could hold 400 stands empty and still, its long space quiet, resting from the crowds it will hold again, content in the dark to be no one's for a while. Look at the mirrors in the ballroom as we pass, because a great mirror in an empty room at night is one of the gentlest things there is. All evening they were full of light and movement, of gowns and jewels and the shine of the chandeliers. Now they hold only the dark room doubled, going quietly off into the shadows. They are not empty, they are restful. They give back the stillness the way they once gave back the dazzle, faithfully, without judgment, holding whatever is there. Tonight what is there is peace, and so the mirrors are full of peace, deep and dim and endless, 100 quiet rooms folding away into the dark. Beyond the tall windows the city keeps its own night. Madison Square lies dark and green below, its bare winter trees, its gas lamps burning low and yellow around the edges, each one a small warm coin of light in the cold. Snow may be falling now, drifting down slow and silent through the lamplight, settling on the square and the street and the roofs of the sleeping houses up the avenue. A carriage passes far off, its wheels faint on the cold stone, and then it is gone, and the quiet closes again. The great city that dined so brightly a few hours ago is nearly all asleep now, house after darkened house, and this one among them, dark above and warm below. And here is the small warm truth of the whole building, held in one thought as we stand in the dark rooms. Above, everything is dark and cool and still, the gilded rooms resting, the mirrors full of shadow, the city quiet beyond the glass. And below at the very foundation one fire is kept, low and red and faithful, and one bowl of dough is rising in the warm, and one watchman walks with his lamp, and the whole dark sleeping house is held from beneath by that small living warmth. The house looks from the street as though it has gone entirely dark and cold like all the rest. It has not. It is only sleeping, with its heart kept warm, exactly the way you are. So let the shape of it settle over you once more, the whole house in 3 small true things. The fire is kept, the doors are bolted, the house is turning over slowly toward morning. Above you the great rooms rest in the dark. Below you the fire glows low and the bread quietly rises. Around it all the watchman walks his patient round, keeping the night so you do not have to. There is nothing left anywhere in this house that needs you. Everything is secured and banked and rising and kept. You may let yourself go all the way down now into the deepest part of the night and be held there, warm and safe, exactly like the sleeping house. Rest in the emptiness of these rooms a moment, because an empty room at night has a gift to give, and it is not a lonely gift. All day these rooms were full of people and noise and the effort of pleasing. Every one of them was performing in its way, being grand, being bright, being worthy of the guests. Now the performance is over, and the rooms are allowed simply to be. They do not have to dazzle anyone in the dark. They do not have to be anything at all, and there is a deep relief in that, even for a room, the relief of being done, of being off duty, of being allowed to rest without having to shine. The ballroom is not less beautiful in the dark. It is beautiful in a different way, a quieter way, the way anything is more truly itself when it has stopped trying to impress. You are allowed the same relief tonight, the same going off duty. All day you were something to someone, playing your parts, being bright and capable and worthy in the ways the day asked of you. Now the day is over, and like these rooms, you may simply be, without performing, without shining, without being anything for anyone. You do not have to be impressive in the dark. You do not have to be anything at all. You may let the performance end, and the lights go down, and rest in the plain quiet truth of yourself, the way the great dark rooms rest, more themselves now than they ever were in all their evening dazzle. And below you, Always the fire keeps. That is the thing to carry down into the deep of the night with you, the one warm certainty under all the dark stillness. However quiet the house grows, however deep the night, the fire is kept, low and red and faithful, at the foundation of everything, holding the warmth through the black hours so that the morning can come. You are resting on top of that kept warmth right now, the whole dark house, and you within it, held from beneath by one small faithful fire that will not go out. There is nothing to fear in the deep of the night. It is only the house, sleeping, with its heart kept warm, exactly as it should be, exactly as you are. The night is at its deepest now, or nearly so, the long still hours between the last workers leaving and the first bakers coming. This is the quietest part of the whole night, and the gentlest, and we will move through it slowly, asking nothing of you at all. That is where we are going next, into the deep of the night, with the fire kept low and warm and the whole house sleeping around us. Now we come to the stillest part of the whole night, the deep hours, and here everything slows. It is somewhere between 2 and 4 in the morning. This is the quietest time there is, in a house or in a city, the low point of the whole turning night. The last workers have gone home, the bakers have not yet come. The house is as empty of moving people as it will ever be, held only by the fire that keeps itself and the one man who walks with a lamp. There is nothing to do now, and nothing to see, and nothing at all that needs you. This chapter asks the least of you of any so far. You may follow it, or you may let it go. Either is right. Let the house be very quiet in your mind. The great kitchen is dark but for the low red glow of the banked range behind its iron. The dining rooms above are dark and cool and still. The cellar is sealed and cold. The cold larder holds its saved winter. The bowl of dough rises slowly under its cloth, the only truly working thing in the whole building, and even it works in silence, invisibly, asking nothing. The snow, if it is snowing, falls without a sound on the square and the street and the roofs. Everything is at its lowest, its slowest, its most still. The whole night has been leading down to this quiet, and here it is. The watchman walks. His is the only movement in the sleeping house now, the one slow point of light, and life going its patient round through the dark. His footsteps are soft and even, going and pausing and going again. He passes through the great rooms and finds them well. He checks a door, a window, the safe low flames, and he comes, on his round, to the kitchen, and stands a moment by the banked fire, warming his hands in the deep cold hour, the low red glow lighting his face. Then he moves on, and the fire glows on behind him, and the two of them keep the deep night together, the fire that does not go out and the man who does not sleep. Here is the shape of it all, once more, for you to rest on if you surface. The fire is kept. The doors are bolted. The house is turning over slowly toward morning. Nothing has changed since you last heard it, and nothing will change for hours, and that sameness is the comfort. The deep of the night is not a time of things happening. It is a time of things being held, steady and safe and unchanging, until the morning. You do not have to track it. You do not have to follow anything. You may simply rest inside the held stillness, the way the whole house is resting, and let the hours pass over you without asking anything at all. Feel how little there is to hold on to now, and how that is a mercy rather than a lack. In the bright evening there was so much: the light, the noise, the courses, the crowd, the endless things to notice. It has all gone quiet now. It has all been put away. And what is left is very simple, almost nothing: a low fire, a walking man, a rising dough, a dark warm house, and a snow that falls without a sound. The simplicity is the gift. A tired mind cannot rest among 1,000 bright things. It can rest here in the deep quiet, where there is almost nothing to hold, and nothing is asked, and the few small warm things that remain are enough, more than enough to be safe inside. The low red glow of the fire is the warmest thing in the world right now. Let it be the thing you rest your mind against, if you rest it against anything at all. It is not bright. It does not flicker or dance. It only glows low and deep and steady behind its iron, holding its warmth close through the dark. It has been kept all night, and it will be kept all night, and it asks nothing of anyone to go on glowing. It is warmth without effort, light without demand, a fire that keeps itself so that no one has to. There is no better thing to fall asleep beside than a fire like that, low and faithful and warm, in the deep still heart of a sleeping house. Notice how time itself feels different in this deep hour, softer, wider, slower. In the busy evening the minutes were full and quick, one thing after another, the clock always pressing. Here the clock has let go. The hours in the deep of the night are long and loose and unhurried, and nothing hurries them. There is no next thing coming. There is no bell about to ring. There is only the long, slow-held quiet, going on, gentle and even, with nowhere it needs to get to. Time in the deep of the night is not a river rushing you along. It is a still pool, and you're floating in it, and it holds you, and it is in no hurry to carry you anywhere at all. Let your mind go as quiet as the house, if it will. You do not need to think about anything now. All the thinking of the day is done, or done enough, and the deep of the night is not the hour for it. This is the hour for the mind to bank itself down, the way the fire is banked, to a low soft glow, using little, giving little, simply resting warm in the dark. If a thought drifts up, let it drift on past, the way the watchman drifts past on his round, going and gone. You do not have to follow it. You do not have to hold anything. In the deep of the night there is nothing to hold, and nothing to solve, and nothing to keep. Only the warm dark and the low fire and the slow still hours, and you floating in them safe. And the house keeps you without your help, all through this deepest hour. You do not have to stay awake to make the fire keep. You do not have to watch to make the watchman walk. You do not have to worry the morning into coming. All of it goes on without you, faithfully, in the warm dark, the fire glowing, the dough rising, the lamp moving, the hours turning slowly toward the light. Your only task tonight, if you have one at all, is to rest. And even that is not really a task, only a letting go. So let go. The deep of the night is holding you, and it does not need your help to do it. And the hours are turning slowly even now, even in the deeper stillness. The night does not stop here. It only slows and rests and keeps turning, quietly, toward the light. Far off, though you cannot see it yet, the morning is beginning to come, not soon, but surely. The deep of the night is the furthest point from the day, and from here the only way the night can go is up gently, toward the dawn. Somewhere the first pale edge of it is already gathering, hours away still, patient, certain. And the first sign of its coming, here in this house, will be a man letting himself in at a back door to a bowl of risen dough. Let us wait for him in the warm. That is where we're going next, to the baker before dawn, with the low red fire keeping us company in the deep quiet. In the darkest, coldest, stillest part of the night, when the whole city sleeps, one person quietly comes back to work, and it is the baker. There is something deeply moving in that, and it is worth resting on gently, though the hour is late and you may already be far away. While everyone else sleeps, the baker rises in the cold and the dark and comes in, alone, to begin the morning's bread. He is the first of the new day, the one who wakes before all the wakers, so that when the rest of the world opens its eyes there will be warm bread waiting as though it had made itself. Of all the keepers of the night, he is the one whose gift the sleeping city most directly wakes to, and the one it thanks the least, because by the time anyone smells the bread the baker has gone home to his own bed. Let us welcome Anton back, our baker, in from the cold. He lets himself in at a back door while the deep night still holds, and the warmth of the kitchen meets him, the kept warmth of the banked fire, and after the cold street it is like an embrace. He goes to the bowl he set at midnight, and he lifts the cloth, and there it is. the small quiet miracle of the night. The sponge has risen. The soft pale nothing he left has swelled and lightened and come alive, worked all night by the yeast in the warm dark exactly as it always does, faithful as the fire. He looks at it the way you look at something you trusted and that did not let you down. It is ready. The morning can begin. Now watch him bring the fire back up, because this is the waking of the great range, and it is a lovely thing. The fire that was banked at midnight has kept all night, low and red and faithful behind its iron. And now Anton opens it and rakes it and gives it air and a little fresh coal, and the low glow stirs and catches and climbs, and in a few minutes the great sleeping fire is awake again, roaring gently back to its full life, ready to bake. This is the whole promise of the banked fire kept and answered. Because it was never let go out, it wakes in minutes instead of hours. The warmth kept through the night becomes the warmth of the morning, unbroken, one fire from yesterday into today, exactly as it was meant to be. He works the risen dough now, and the kitchen fills slowly with the best smell in the whole world. He turns the sponge out and adds to it and kneads it, the old strong patient motion of a baker's hands folding and pressing and turning, waking the dough fully into bread. He shapes the loaves and the rolls, dozens of them, scores of them, the morning's bread for a great house of dining, and he sets them to the heat. And then, as they bake, the smell begins, that warm, deep, homely smell of baking bread, and it rises off the ovens and fills the kitchen and begins gently to climb the stairs into the sleeping house above, the first sign anywhere in the building that the night is ending and the morning is on its way. Let that smell reach you, wherever you are drifting. There is no smell more comforting than baking bread, none more deeply woven into what it means to be safe and warm and cared for. It is the smell of home, of morning, of a world that has kept its promises, of good things made ready by patient hands while you slept. It has meant those things to human beings for longer than anyone can remember, and it means them still, and it means them to you now. Somewhere below you in the warm dark the bread is baking, and its smell is rising through the house, and the morning it promises is real and gentle and on its way. You may breathe it in, and be comforted, and sink. Think of what the baker has done, this quiet man alone in the small hours, because it is the whole spirit of the night in one person. He rose in the cold and the dark when he could have slept. He came in alone to the empty warm kitchen. He trusted the dough he set hours before, and it did not fail him. He woke the kept fire, and it answered, and out of flour and water and patience and a fire that never went out, he has made the warm bread that the whole waking house will meet as its first small mercy of the day. No one will thank him. No one will even see him. By the time the bread is on the tables, he'll be walking home through the last of the dark to his own rest, his night's work already forgotten by the people it feeds, and he does it anyway every night, because it is his, and because someone must, and because the morning needs bread. That is the deepest shape of the keeper's thesis this whole night has quietly carried, and here at last it is at its warmest and its plainest. The world we wake to each morning, warm and fed and ready, was made ready in the dark by people we never see. The bread on the table, the fire in the grate, the safe locked house, the swept floor, the clean cloth, all of it was done by hands that worked while we slept and asked nothing back. It is not a debt to feel guilty about. It is a warmth to be grateful for and to rest inside. You have been carried through this night by exactly such hands, and somewhere, right now, in some kitchen, a baker is doing it still. Let that be a comfort as the smell of bread fills the warm dark. The morning is being made ready for you by faithful hands, exactly as it always has been. Stay in the warm kitchen with the baker a little longer, because it is the coziest place in the whole world right now, and there is no better place to be as the night thins toward morning. The great range is awake again, and roaring gently, throwing its heat into the room. The ovens are full, the smell of the bread is everywhere. And Anton moves quietly among it all unhurried at home, doing the work his hands have done 10,000 times, alone in the warm while the city sleeps on around him. There is a deep peace in a person working calmly at something they love and know well, in the quiet, with no one watching. You can feel it just by being near him. It settles the room, it settles you. He does not mind the loneliness of the hour. Like the watchman, he is one of the people who are at home in the small hours, who find the quiet of the sleeping world a comfort rather than a burden. The kitchen at this hour is his, entirely, warm and bright and smelling of bread, and he would not trade it for the bright crowded rooms of the evening. There is a whole quiet company of such people in the world, the night bakers and the watchmen and the ones who keep the long dark shifts, and they are, many of them, the most peaceful people you could meet, because they have made their peace with the dark and the quiet and their own company, and found warmth in all three. Tonight you are one of them, in a way, awake in the small hours in the warm and welcome, and the bread comes, at last, warm and golden and perfect, drawn from the ovens in its dozens and its scores. Anton sets the loaves and the rolls to cool, and the smell of them deepens and fills the whole kitchen, and climbs the stairs into the sleeping house, and the morning, which was only a promise a few hours ago in a bowl under a cloth, is now real and warm and ready. He has done it again. He does it every night, and every night it is, in its small way, a quiet triumph. Flour and water and patience and a kept fire turned into the warm first mercy of the day. He wipes his hands and looks at the cooling bread and is content. The bread is baking now, the fire is up, the smell is rising through the house. And out into the last of the dark other keepers are setting off on the day's first errands, down toward the great markets to bring the house its food before dawn. Let us go with them a little way. That is where we are going next, to the market run before light, with the warm smell of bread following us out into the cold. While the bread bakes, other quiet workers set out into the last of the dark down toward the markets, to bring the house its food before the day begins. This was the last great task of the night and the first of the morning, the two ends of the clock meeting in the cold hours before dawn, and it reaches back to the very heart of what made this house great. A restaurant like Delmonico's lived or died by the freshness of what it served, and freshness, in the age we are visiting, meant going to the markets yourself, early, before anyone else, to choose the best of everything as it came in. And so, while most of the city still slept, the buyers of the great houses were already up and out, moving through the dark toward the markets, ready to choose the day's food the moment it arrived. There is a memory that belongs here, and it is a real one, and it tells you everything about the spirit of this house. In the early great days of the restaurant, the man who made it what it was, Lorenzo Delmonico himself, was famous for going to the markets in person, at 4 in the morning. The owner of the most fashionable restaurant in America, a wealthy man who could have slept as late as he pleased, was down at the Fulton and Washington markets in the cold dark before dawn, choosing the fish and the vegetables and the meat with his own eyes, because he trusted no one else to choose as well. His day, they say, ran from 4 in the morning at the markets to midnight at the restaurant, a day of some 20 hours, and he lived it for years. That was the standard the whole house was built on, set at 4 in the morning in the cold. Follow a buyer out into it, one of the men who carried that tradition on. He leaves the warm kitchen with the smell of the baking bread behind him, and steps out into the dark, cold street, and the cold takes his breath for a moment after the warmth. The city is still asleep around him, the houses dark, the square empty, the snow, if it fell, lying quiet and untouched under the low gas lamps. And he sets off through it, one small figure moving through the sleeping city on an errand as old as cities themselves, going to fetch the food that will feed the great house when it wakes. Down at the markets, though, the world is already awake, a whole hidden city of the night going about its business in the dark. The great markets of the age were places of astonishing life in the small hours when the rest of the city slept. The carts coming in from the country and the docks, the fish laid out gleaming and cold, the vegetables in their crates and baskets, the meat, the butter, the eggs, the flowers, the market men up all night calling and hauling and selling by lamplight. It was a rough, cold, vivid, entirely awake world, hidden inside the sleeping city, and the buyers of the great houses moved through it, choosing the best of everything, the way their kind had done before dawn for longer than anyone could say. And there was another source of food that belonged to this house especially, and it is a lovely one to rest on. The Delmonicos did not only buy at the markets, they grew their own. Across the river, in Brooklyn near Williamsburg, the family kept a farm of some 220 acres, and on it they raised vegetables that the city markets could not supply, choice and fresh, brought in specially for the tables. 220 acres of green worked for one restaurant so that the diners of Fifth Avenue could have the finest and freshest of everything. Think of that quiet farm in the dark now, its fields resting under the winter, its work done for the season, part of the long patient chain of land and hands and hours that ended in a warm plate under a gilded ceiling. There is a whole vast web here if your drifting mind wants to hold it, and it is a warm one. The plate that a guest ate without a thought reached back, through the cook who made it, to the buyer who chose the fish before dawn, to the market man who hauled it in the dark, to the boat that brought it, to the farm across the river, to the land and the water and the seasons themselves. Every warm, effortless thing in the bright rooms upstairs rested on a long, invisible chain of cold, early hands, reaching out from the kitchen into the sleeping city and the dark fields beyond it and the sea beyond them. The house was the small, warm, bright end of an enormous patient web of work, most of it done in the cold, most of it done before dawn, most of it never seen. But you do not have to hold the whole web tonight. You have only to know that it is there, and that it works, and that it is bringing the morning's food toward the house even now, through the dark, in the cold, by faithful hands, exactly as it always has. The buyer will choose, and the food will come, and the kitchen will wake to find everything it needs already on its way. Nothing is missing. Nothing has been forgotten. The great patient machine of the night is doing its quiet work all around you, and it does not need your watching. You may let it run without you, and rest. There is a warmth in that old memory of Lorenzo at the markets that is worth resting on, because it tells you what kind of care built this house. He did not go at 4 a.m. because he had to. He went because he loved the thing he was making, and because true care always wants to see for itself, to choose the best with its own eyes, to give the people it serves nothing less than the finest it can find. That is care of the deepest kind, the kind that rises in the cold and dark and asks nothing back, the kind that stands behind every good thing that was ever made well. The whole house, in all its guilt and glory, rested on that plain early morning care. A wealthy man in the cold at the markets, choosing the fish, because it mattered to him that it be right. And that same care ran all the way down through the house, from the owner at the markets to the boy at the sink. Everyone in this whole story, in their own way, was giving that kind of care, the unwatched, unthanked, before dawn kind, the kind that simply wants the thing done well for its own sake. It is the quietest and best kind of love there is, the care that keeps a fire, or scours a pan, or chooses a fish in the cold, or watches over sleeping strangers, not for praise, but because the work is worth doing and someone must do it well. You have been surrounded by that care all night. You're surrounded by it still, tonight, in your own world, more than you know. Out in the cold, the buyer goes on toward the markets, and the sleeping city lies quiet around him, and somewhere ahead the great awake world of the night markets waits with its lamps and its carts and its gleaming cold fish. He is one more faithful figure moving through the dark on the house's behalf, one more pair of hands in the long chain that reaches from the warm plate all the way back to the sea and the soil, and behind him the household's warm and safe, the fire up, the bread cooling, the whole long night nearly done. The buyer is out in the dark now, and the bread is nearly baked, and far off the first grey edge of the morning is at last beginning to gather at the rim of the sky. The long night is almost over, and it is time, gently, to gather up what all these hours have shown us, and to see what of this warm, vanished world still reaches us tonight. That is where we are going next, to what survives till morning, with the smell of bread and the promise of dawn around us. The night is nearly over now, and this is the gentlest chapter of all, so let it wash over you like the first grey light at the window. We have spent a whole night inside the working heart of a great and famous house, and much of what we have seen is long gone. The house at 5th Avenue and 26th Street closed its doors in the last year of the century in 1899. Charles Ranhofer, who ran its kitchen for 30 years, died that same year. The cooks and the boys and the watchmen and the bakers are all long at rest. The great range is cold. The gilded rooms are gone. It would be easy to feel the loss of all that, but this is not a channel of loss, and the truth is gentler and warmer than loss, and it is this. So much of that warm world did not vanish at all. It was passed along quietly into our own time, and it is with us still tonight. The dishes survive. The steak that carried the house's name, the lobster bound with cream, the sweet with its frozen heart wrapped in warm cloud, they are all still made in kitchens all over the world tonight. They outlived the house that made them famous. They outlived the men who first cooked them. They were passed from kitchen to kitchen, from cook to cook, the way the fire itself was passed from hand to hand, kept alive, carried forward, so that a thing born in that warm room more than 100 years ago is on some table, somewhere, right now, warming a stranger who has never heard of Delmonico's at all. That is a kind of immortality, and it is the humble, generous kind, the kind that forgets its own name and simply goes on doing good. The book survives. Charles Ranhofer wrote his whole kitchen down, all 3,719 recipes of it, so that it would not be lost, and it was not. The Epicurean is still here, still in print, still on shelves, still read. You could hold it in your hands tomorrow if you wished, and open it, and read the exact dishes these cooks made, the exact way they made them, the written memory of the warm room we have spent the night in. The fire is cold, but the book is warm still. The whole life of that kitchen kept safe between two covers, waiting quietly for anyone who wants to walk back in. Not everything is lost that seems to end. Some things are only written down and kept and passed along, and the plainest thing of all survives, the deepest thing, the thing this whole night has really been about. The city still wakes to bread made in the dark by people it never sees. That has not changed at all. Somewhere in your own town tonight, a baker is rising in the cold, or has already risen, and is setting a fire, and working a dough that was left to prove overnight, so that there will be warm bread in the morning as though it made itself. The watchmen still walk. The night workers still keep the sleeping world safe and fed and warm, asking nothing, mostly unthanked, exactly as they did in that gilded house 100 years ago. The particular house is gone. The keeping goes on. It goes on everywhere, every night, still, including tonight, including now, including around you. There is a deep comfort in that, maybe the deepest the whole night offers, and it is worth resting your whole tired weight on it as the light comes up. The warmth you have been feeling all night, the kept fire, the rising bread, the faithful hands in the dark, is not a thing that ended long ago in a vanished world. It is a thing that is still true, right now, all around you. The world is still being kept warm through the dark by people you will never meet. The morning is still being made ready for you, tonight, by faithful hands, exactly as it was for the guests of that great house so long ago. You are held in the very same keeping. It never stopped. It is holding you now. Even the words survive, if you listen for them. The age of the great houses left little sayings in our mouths that we use without a thought, the upstairs and the downstairs of a house, the whole idea of the people who kept the world running from below. We still speak, without knowing it, in the language of that vanished world of service, and every time we do, a small warm piece of it is alive again in us. So much of the past does not really die. It sinks into the ordinary things, the words we say, the dishes we eat, the bread we wake to, and goes on living there quietly, carried forward by people who have no idea they're carrying anything at all. You have been carrying pieces of that gilded world your whole life without knowing it. Tonight you got to see where a few of them came from, and the warmth survives, most of all, which is the thing that matters. Not the guilt, not the wealth, not the famous names. Those were only the surface. The thing worth keeping was always the warmth underneath, the fire kept, the bread made, the sleeping watched over, the care given in the dark and asked nothing for. And that warmth was never tied to that one house at all. It belonged to the whole human way of keeping each other through the night, and it belongs to us still, and it is being given, right now, tonight, in 1,000 quiet places, exactly as it was given then. The house was only one warm vessel for a warmth that never ends. The vessel is gone. The warmth pours on into other vessels, into tonight, into the room where you're lying now. So there is nothing to grieve as this night ends, and nothing to hold on to too tightly, and nothing at all left to do. The house did its work and passed its warmth along, and the warmth is still here, in the dishes, in the book, in the bread rising in 10,000 dark kitchens tonight, in the simple unbroken fact that the world still keeps itself warm through the night so that we may sleep. You have been carried through the dark by all of it, the fire and the bread and the patient hands, and you are safe and warm and nearly home to morning. There is only the last and warmest scene of all to come, the deepest rest of the whole night. Let us go to it gently. That is where we are going next, into the good night of the house, with the fire kept low and the bread warm and the first light at the windows. And so we come to the last and warmest scene of the whole night, and there is nothing left in it but rest. Let us stand once more in the warm heart of the house, in the kitchen, in the deepest quiet before the dawn. Everything we have seen through the long night is settled now, each thing in its place. The dining rooms above are dark and clean and cool, the chairs squared, the mirrors holding only shadow, waiting patiently for a morning they cannot see. The cellar is sealed and cool, the thousands of bottles resting in the dark. The silver sleeps in its cases. The cold larder holds its saved winter. The doors are bolted against the quiet street, and here, at the foundation of it all, the great range glows low and red behind its iron, banked and faithful, keeping the warmth of the whole house through the last of the dark. The sponge has risen, and the first bread is baking, and the warm smell of it fills the kitchen and drifts up through the sleeping house, the first gentle sign of the morning. The watchman has just passed on his slow round, his lamp moving away down the passage, his soft footsteps fading, all found well. The copper gleams faintly on its rails overhead, made bright by patient hands in the dark. The stone floor is clean and drying, and beyond the high windows, far off at the rim of the sky, the first pale grey of the dawn is just beginning to come, patient and certain, the way it always comes, the way it has never once failed to come. Let the warmth of this room hold you completely now, because there is nowhere safer or gentler in the whole world tonight. Feel the low heat of the banked fire on the air. Breathe in the smell of the warm bread. See in your mind the soft red glow behind the iron, the faint gleam of the copper overhead, the clean stone floor, the covered things at rest, the whole quiet, warm room keeping itself faithfully through the last of the dark. This is the heart of the house, the warm, still centre of everything, and you are here, in it, welcome, held. No one will ask anything of you here. Nothing will disturb you here. You may simply be warm and safe and still. And feel how the whole great sleeping building rises up around this one warm room, floor above floor of quiet dark, holding you in the middle of it like a warm coal held in a cupped hand, The dark dining rooms above, the bolted doors, the sealed cellar and the sleeping wine, the silver at rest in its cases, the snow perhaps still falling soft and silent on the roofs, and beyond the house the whole sleeping city, and beyond the city the dark fields and the sea, and over all of it the sky beginning, very faintly, very far off, to pale toward the coming day. Layer upon layer of the world, wrapped around you, all of it quiet, all of it safe, all of it turning gently toward morning, with you warm at the very heart of it. There is nothing left of the night to do but rest, and you have earned the rest, and it is offered to you freely. All through these hours you have been carried gently by unseen hands, the way the whole sleeping house is carried by the keepers who never rest. You did not have to keep the fire. You did not have to walk the watch or raise the bread or bolt the doors. Others did all of it faithfully in the dark so that you could simply lie still and be warm and let go. That is what has been happening all night. That is what is happening now. You are being kept. You do not have to do the keeping. You have only to receive it and sink and sleep. Now let us answer gently the question we carried in at the very beginning of the night. We asked, when the last guest has gone home, who stays awake to keep a great house warm until morning? And now you know, these people, these hands, the night cooks who closed the kitchen down and banked the fire, the boy who scoured the copper bright, the cellar man with his lamp, the plate man with his careful count, the manager throwing his bolts, the watchman on his patient round, and the baker, alone in the cold small hours, waking the fire and raising the bread. They stayed awake. They kept the fire. They made the morning ready. And they did it not for glory and not for thanks, but simply because the house needed keeping and someone must keep it, and they were the ones who did. And here is the last, warmest truth of all, the one to fall asleep holding. They are keeping it still. Not in this house, which is long gone, but everywhere, tonight, in every dark kitchen and every sleeping town, the same faithful keeping goes on. Someone is banking a fire right now. Someone is watching over sleeping people right now. Someone is raising bread in the cold dark right now, so that a world they will never meet can wake to warmth and be fed. The keeping never stopped. It is happening all around you, this very moment, holding the night together so that you may rest inside it. You are not outside that warmth, looking back at it across 100 years. You are inside it, right now, held by it, tonight. So let yourself be placed here, in the warm heart of the sleeping house, in the safest and quietest room of the most famous restaurant that ever was. The fire glows low and red beside you. The bread bakes warm in the ovens. The copper shines softly overhead. The whole great house sleeps above you, dark and safe and still, and beyond it the city sleeps, and beyond that the first grey light is coming, gentle and sure. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to keep. There is nothing anywhere that needs you now. Everything is banked and rising and kept and safe, and the morning is on its way, and you may let go of all of it, all the way down into the warm. The gates are closed, the great kitchen is banked to a low red glow, and the bread is rising in the dark, and the house will keep till morning. Sleep well, friend. If this quiet hour was a good place to rest, you might leave a gentle like, or a word below about which part of the night stayed with you, and follow along for the next one, whenever you feel like it, and never before. And when you are ready to come back, there will be another night waiting, another great house going dark, another warm room kept safe till morning, and a place in it always saved for you. But that is for another time. For now there is only the low red fire and the warm smell of bread, and the house keeping itself till morning, and you safe inside it, letting go. Good night, friend. Sleep well.